Welcome back. This is Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. And it is fantasy playoff time. So we need to get into a bunch of the nitty gritty to help you set your lineups, to help you feel confident and comfortable that you'll give yourself the best chance to win. Today, we're getting into a lot of fun stuff. The ever-changing landscape at the tight end position just seems like every week there's a new star to talk about. Every week there's a new player getting an insane target share that we need to talk about. We'll talk about that, rest of season ranks, some schedule discussion. We're going to get into a little Shedeur Sanders discussion. We both watched tape of his breakout performance against the Titans defense and what it means for Harold Fannin Jr. What's his long-term outlook? This is a player we loved. We talked a little bit about yesterday. We'll do passing game usage notes, and we'll do some backfield usage discussion for every team. So a lot to talk about today. How are you doing, my friend Jacob?
I'm good. You ready to lock in, Dan? We do have a lot to talk about. All right. We're doing rest of season rankings. If you did not get to Tuesday's Beyond the Box Score, we did rest of season rankings for running back and receiver. We're going to look at tight end today. So we talked about Harold Fannin a lot yesterday. I want to catch you guys up on where he sits. Dan, you brought up Harold Fannin over Tyler Warren rest of season. It seemed a little crazy to me, but boom, here's where we've landed. I think it makes sense. Here's a better look at this graphic, I think. I don't feel good at all about the Colts as I look forward and I'm projecting them. Whereas Fannin, after watching the Browns film, like I felt even better than I did initially digging into the numbers. And obviously Fannin is a stud, but like we know that, but he continues to me to look better and better as the year goes on. We know that he can create after the catch and everything. But in this game, I was really just really impressed with the speed that he's playing at, the suddenness that he's playing with. He's thought of as slow, and maybe his top speed, straight line speed, isn't that fast, but he looks like he's playing faster than he ever has, and I think this is something that you see pretty often with these rookies if you watch it like week to week, quarter to quarter, like they're picking the game up. It's slowing down for them, and they're able to move with more and more confidence and like comfort out there. And it kind of seems like that's the point in the season we've arrived at with him, and they're moving him all over the formation and basing everything around him. Like Jerry Jeudy had a good game for fantasy because Shedeur Sanders found him and hit him for a 60-yard touchdown, but he had 11% first read target rate. It was really like the game plans centered around this freaking 21-year-old rookie tight end. So I've got him at tight end 5 rest of the way. It's basically there's a clear top 3. It's Trey McBride, George Kittle, and Brock Bowers. And then it's like Jake Ferguson, Fannin, Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid, Hunter Henry. I dropped Tyler Warren to 9. Brenton Strange, I think that's kind of a tier. I guess you can throw Travis Kelce into that. I'm not really sure what we're going to get from Kelce. Does anything stand out to you as you look at this top 12?
No, I mean, it looks pretty good to me. I'm happy to see Theo Johnson in there, another big part of the Giants passing game. It's interesting to me, I was watching the tape of that Shedeur game, and you're right, Fannin is playing faster, which is what you expect. And I think, it's most evident on that red zone touchdown he had. That's where you can really see the speed of the game slow down for him and him create the kind of separation that a lot of people didn't think that he had. There's really nothing about his game outside of the straight line speed that has any doubt, that should bring any doubt to anyone's mind. But what really stands out to me is if we look through the 3 rookie quarterbacks playing the most right now, or the 4, let's include Ward in that, because we've had some success with Gunnar Helm. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Tyler Shuck. The tight ends are a big part of all of those passing games. And I think the tight end, the usage of 12 personnel, really makes things easy. It becomes a best friend for a rookie quarterback. We've heard that kind of in the past, and that has faded a little bit in the NFL until recently as teams have started to realize, okay, we can use 12 personnel. We can get 2 tight ends on the field and find a little bit of a schematic advantage against the way that these teams are playing defense. So with that said, I think it'll be the same moving forward. I actually thought, and I'm glad you showed off, one clip of the arrow route, and I was watching through Sanders' tape. I thought Samson would be a big part of that for Shedeur Sanders. Make things easy for him. Have running backs running arrow routes, Texas routes, have the tight ends, and just provide easy solutions. And that's kind of what's Fannin has been for Sanders. So I expect it to be the same moving forward.
Yeah, you're talking about Dylan Sampson, to be clear for anybody who's not deep into this stuff. Here's a look at the rest of the tight ends. I really think that after Hunter Henry for me, and maybe Brenton Strange gets up into that group, These players are all pretty similar, and so that lets you know
Sure.
how nervous I am about Warren. So what I've got on Warren is Tyler Warren, rookie for the Colts. They had their bye 3 weeks ago, and the game before that, we saw highest target share of his rookie season. First game where he gave us more than 79 yards. He had 99 yards on 8 catches, 10 targets against Atlanta. One of his highest first 3 target rates of the year. And I thought coming out of the bye, maybe they would build more of their offense around him. But that is not what we've seen. He has an 18.6% first read rate in the 3 games out of the bye. And so we've seen 45, 22, and 15 yards, and I don't think that there's much reason to expect it to get better. I guess Seattle, has given up points to tight ends, but that defense is nasty. I could see the Colts having, 110 passing yards or something in this game. I just kinda want to avoid this, and if I don't know, man. It feels a little irresponsible to tell people to, drop a supremely talented rookie tight end, right? But, I do feel more confidence in a lot of these guys. Hunter Henry, if he was there, personally, I would just rather have Hunter Henry. I like the matchups a lot better. I think the role has been better, and we're talking about Drake May compared to apparently Philip Rivers. I don't know. At the end of the day, talent only gets you so far, and it's not like Hunter Henry's a bad player. He's a pretty good player, you know? A lot of these guys are. Brenton Strange is a pretty freaking good player. So I think you could drop Warren even further, to be honest. For listeners, after Strange and Kelsey and Theo Johnson, it's Juwan Johnson. His route rate dropped a little bit. We're going to talk about some 5 or 6 passing games that stood out to me, and some potential cheap sources of value, because I think tight end and receiver have shifted a lot over the past few weeks. So if you've been riding with some of these players, Adonai Mitchell or whatever, I don't know if you can going forward. And so here are some replacement options. The Saints are one of those teams. The Giants are one of those teams. We'll get into them later. And look at some of the usage stuff. I still think that Juwan's a decent bet, even though it was a little bit weird this past week. He got rocked on one play, so I wonder if maybe it was a bit of an injury scare or something. That's why his playing time was down. And then it's Dallas Goedert, Colston Loveland, Aronde Gadsden. That one's been a bummer for sure. It just keeps looking worse and worse for their line. Yes. And this schedule's not great either. The Chiefs and the Texans and even the Cowboys a little bit too have been pretty tough against tight ends this year. So it's a true just a bet on talent if you want to roll with him.
Just the chips with nothing on. It's just a bet on talent.
Don't throw me off with random I think you should leave references. I'm not ready for it. I think Darren Waller is somebody who's potentially interesting, but they are really trying to lean on the ground game. So it dries up pretty fast. Isaiah Likely is somebody you could go to. It's the targets have been there a little bit lately, but the role hasn't really changed. But he gets the Bengals this week. So yeah, outside of the top 15, which ends with Loveland and Goddard, it's just can you hopefully find whoever plays the Bengals this week on your waiver wire? Because I don't think you want to go. Maybe Dalton Schultz. You feel safe with that?
Not really, no.
We've seen it kind of dry up lately. These past few weeks, we've got an 8-yard game, a 22-yard game. And that can come in any time for him. Maybe TJ Hawkinson, you mentioned. Maybe Mason Taylor.
I will say this on the Hawkinson front. From watching the tape of McCarthy, I feel like Hawkinson is the solution he needs in a lot of these spots. So he provides those quick game solutions. They leaned on quick game last week with McCarthy against a bad Commanders defense, so I don't want to make too much of it. But Hawkinson was that option. It was Hawkinson and Addison. So I feel a little bit okay about that. But as it pertains to Warren, because that's where this started, I agree with you. He's more name than game at this point. Shout out to John Kersner, listener of the podcast, big fan. He's been a huge supporter of our show, one of my friends in the early years. And he asked me yesterday, am I crazy to bench Warren for Kincaid? And I said, not only are you not crazy, to me, it's an obvious decision to bench Warren for Kincaid. And it seems crazy because of the name. But if you just look at the Colts offense and how it's evolved over the course of the season, Warren's been a smaller part of the offense as we've gone, fewer first reads. They've done different things in the offense to kind of generate offense around defenses adjusting to what they did early in the year. And that's how it's always going to be, right? You're not going to be able to run the same offense throughout the year. There's going to have to be, especially if it's an offense like the Colts that's relied so much on first reads. you're gonna have to change things up. And I feel like that's gone. That's how it's been. And then that doesn't even touch on what you brought up, which is like, are we going to trust Phillip Rivers at 44 years old to generate a lot of passing? I honestly want to see it, dude. Like, I don't know. It's like, I know he's going to do a better job than Brett Rippon. I'm very, very confident in that. That's my personal opinion. Guys like Brett Rippon, Dylan Gabriel, they can't play at the NFL level. They can't generate offense. But Rivers at least has a chance to. It's just it feels like such a weird risk. Like, I don't know. I want to see it before I believe it.
Yeah. So Kincaid got a tight end 7. That's ahead of Warren. I think that you could put him as high as 4 if you want. I think he has more upside week to week and could outscore any of Kyle Pitts, Harold Fannin, Jake Ferguson, and Hunter Henry. I feel better about the floor for those guys. They're full-time players, but the Bills could score a lot of points in these games here coming up, and he could be a big part of that. I think that they've needed him, and they probably want to get him going, rolling into the playoffs here. We got to talk about Kyle Pitts real quick. So we brought up, a few weeks ago, we talked about like who could be some surprise league winners for you guys. And some of those were misses. Gadsden, we were hopeful for. But that's, you're going to run into that when you're going to people like Gadsden and Kyle Pitts. Pitts is looking really good. Like it felt like it was either him or Mooney. One of those two was probably going to benefit in a big way. And it's been Pitts. Pitts has a 34% first 3 target rate over the 3 games with Kirk Cousins. That's extremely high at tight end. That's higher than anybody. McBride is up there at 32% across that 3-week sample. So they're doing what we had seen them do in the past when they didn't have London and they did have Kirk Cousins in there. They're getting him in motion a lot. They're finding ways to get the ball into his hands where he can run and make plays after the catch. And I think he looks good. He's tied in 5 in points per game across these 3 games and tied in 4 in catchable expected fantasy points per game across these 3 games. So we'll see if London is able to get back out there. Maybe that diminishes the role a little bit here and he drops into like the Travis Kelce, Brenton Strange range. But for right now, it feels really good with Pitts. We're here, never wrong, just extremely early for 5 straight years.
5 straight years of being early. To be fair though, like I have watched a lot of Pitts cut ups this year, and you've done a great job of doing them on Twitter as well. He does look like a totally different player. He looks way more explosive. Healthy. He looks healthy. I guess it took 4 years of him just being injured every year. He's finally healthy. And also within that, I think because he's healthy and looking more like the player that played at Florida and the prospect we thought he could be, Atlanta's found a way to use him better because they know he can do things differently than he's done in the past. I think it's been I'm enthusiastic about everything I've seen. Let's just say that from Kyle Pitts this year. And they realize that right now, without Drake London in the lineup, he's been that source of offense that they need, that source of explosive plays in the pass game. Things could change fast if Drake comes back. Drake did not practice Monday. I don't think he practiced Tuesday either. So I would say Drake London is trending toward not playing, but that's just speculation at this point. If he doesn't play, I'm fine putting Kyle Pitts as high as where you have him, if not higher, to me, quite honestly. And I'm really excited to see his free agency this offseason because, guys like Gabe Davis get super mega deals in free agency. Josh Palmer gets mega deal, like Darius Slayton signing for $336. Kyle Pitts, if you're a team that needs an offensive weapon, like that would be top of my list as far as what's going to hit free agency this offseason. So I'm excited to see how that goes because if somebody does give him a big contract, they're going to envision him in ways in their offense like Atlanta has figured out this year. So he's just a player trending up, I think, in general.
Yeah, love to see it. We said we've got some comments here in the chat. Stream would probably get more likes if both Jacob and Dan were wearing nose strip. You think we're done with the nose strip era?
No, we are not at all done with the nose strip era. I had to retire wearing it because I got too used to what it was like to breathe. And then like when I would take it off, I'd be like, oh, it would feel like I couldn't breathe. I really honestly felt like I couldn't breathe. Like, I just had to get back to life of not being able to breathe. Jacob will never wear a nose strip because Jacob doesn't have the issues that I have. You can obviously tell. better genetics for Jacob when it comes to breathing.
Okay, I do breath work every day. Okay, I'm very committed. Okay, Dan, don't
I
give
would
me
like to do
genetics
breath
here.
work, but it's
You're a
hard to do
classic
breath
guy
work.
complaining in the gym about genetics. Get out of here.
Oh, it is definitely a genetics issue. I think that's pretty obvious here. Literally can't breathe out of one side of my nose, but
I don't want to take anything away from your own suffering. I don't know what's going on with your genetics. Just don't talk about mine, okay?
Okay. We won't talk about your genetics then. We won't ever get back into that. With that said, thank you for the comment. And as Papa Bless says, oh, let me see if I can show this. Papa Bless says, yeah, I still have that ability. The nose strip era lasted a week. You're right. It was only 1 week of me wearing that thing. One day, eventually in the off season, I'll opt to potentially get surgery, but I've heard it's an invasive surgery to fix a deviated septum, and it's just not time for it. But let's talk football. That's what we're here for. And A-Rod asks on the tight end question, this kind of leads into it. Is Colby Parkinson close to your top 12, Jacob? Are you suggesting to the listeners, I will play Colby Parkinson this week?
No, no. Colby Parkinson is, to me, like, it's hard to find a comparison for him. I think the best comparison for him is something like Evan Ingram week to week. Evan Ingram is faster, so it gives you more big play potential in theory. But it's something like that where it's like you can luck into touchdowns because he's in such a good offense.
Right.
But it's not like he really has a red zone role. It's maybe Cade Otton is a better comparison, but the Rams offense is so much better.
Right.
Or like AJ Barner. It's like that kind of profile here. Mark Andrews, something like that.
Yeah.
So you can use him in deep leagues. That's why we brought him up, but I don't think there's very much upside there.
I would agree with that.
They tried to make Parkinson like the guy last year, and it amounted to basically nothing. Like this isn't, you know what I mean? This isn't some new experiment. We've got like a decent sample size of him being the starting tight end and it not mattering for fantasy at all.
Yep, that's fair.
All right, sorry to get the show off the rails there. I just thought that would be fun.
No, I liked it.
And I hope you know.
Go off the rails. That's why it's beyond the box score.
That I was just playing around about the.
No, I didn't think so at all. I took it very seriously, and we'll have a conversation about it after the show. But with that said, while we're going off the rails, hit the like button, everyone. I haven't done this in a while. You're going to have to like this thing. I mean, come on, guys. We love you. You love us. We love the comment section. It's great. Leave comments. That helps to boost the show. But please like this. Hit the like button. We're here. It takes you 2 seconds. It's going to my old school. Hover that hand over the mouse. Click the like button. Support the show. Leave us a rating review on Spotify and iTunes. Subscribe to this feed as well. And then maybe, as Lawson Smith says, I will go beyond the rhinoplasty. It would be nice to breathe. I'll be honest. It would be very nice to breathe. But let's get back into this thing, Jacob. Let's get the train back on the rails. Is that a train back on the rails?
I think they're on the rails. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to, at the end of the show, we're going to take our first break here in a moment. But at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the Saints. We're going to talk about Vele and Juwan Johnson. And of course, Chris Olave. There's been a bit of a development there. So Dan, you brought that up yesterday. I did dig into that. I'm going to dig into the Giants. So I think Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson are interesting for deep leagues. We'll talk about Wan'Dale Robinson, where I'm at with him. Dig into these splits with Jackson Dart on the field specifically. We've got a decent sample size on that now. Talk about the Bears, what the potential Rome Odunze absence might mean for Luther Burden, Colson Loveland, players like that, if you can use them down the stretch. Getting to the Houston Texans and their rookies. They're getting a little bit more burn here lately. And then the Patriots. So Kayshon Boutte, Hunter Henry, trying to find, kind of the next wave of fill-in players who can help you potentially, bridge the gap, get you to the fantasy championship if you've got to let some players go that aren't really helping you so much. Maybe Rico Dowdle is one of those players. We've had some questions in the chat about Dowdle for sure. We're going to get into backfields, look at all the recent usage, coach speak, and everything that we've got, and try to make sense of those as well. Look at the schedules and figure out what the outlook is for Chuba Hubbard, Dowdle, all these backfields as we go forward. But let's hit our first break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
Can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount+.
All right, Dan, I don't mean to put you on the spot. So I don't want you to get where I know it can feel bad where we get a negative about these players. We
Yeah.
do our best to stay positive and focus on the positive, because ultimately that's mostly what matters for fantasy is getting points. But Shedeur Sanders was a prospect that you and I had our fair share of concerns with and weren't necessarily shocked to see him fall.
Yeah.
Because of what's on the football field, mostly for me at least. I'm curious if you could kind of outline for people what some of your concerns were going in. Because for me, it was pretty simple. Like, I just didn't get to see enough of him doing real life, like NFL type down to down quarterback stuff to know if he could, you know? And so if there are like some questions about the arm talent, if it's not answered on film, I'm like, I don't really see how this is an early round pick, With Jackson Dart, people brought up that there were questions about him doing some of the things he needed to do. It was really simple for him in college. Or Jalen Milroe is another player like that. But you did see flashes of it. You saw flashes of like elite arm talent and athleticism and stuff. And it didn't feel like Shedeur had enough of those flashes. And there was also there were some concerning things too. But if you want to get into anything specific, that'd be great. And then I'll tell you what I saw in film in week 14.
Yeah. So just to put it into context, for me, it was a matter of Shedeur Sanders was being discussed as the 3rd overall pick for the New York Giants, and I just never saw it from the 7 or 8. I think it was 8 games I ended up watching on tape of Shedeur Sanders. I went back and watched a couple from the year before because people told me go watch his older film too, and I think I saw 2 of those. But I just never saw it for that pick at 3 overall. That doesn't mean I didn't think he could potentially be a starter at the NFL level or worth a 2nd or 3rd round pick, because I did see some of those traits. But I'll talk about some of the concerns first and then maybe some of the things that I liked. And this is all from his college tape. The first and major concern for me was the offense that he ran with Pat Shurmur. It was not an offense that prepared him at all in my mind for the NFL level. It was simplified reads. It was a lot of just simple drag routes that he was able to hit. It was a lot of throw a bubble screen to the outside and let the Colorado athletes beat out these really, really, really slow 2nd and 3rd level defenders.
Way more screens than any of the quarterbacks we scouted.
Way more screens than any quarterbacks.
Double the amount, if I remember right.
Which was smart by Pat Shurmur because he realized Colorado had three really good athletes, the wide receiver position. It wasn't just Travis Hunter, at least relative to the context of what they were playing against. Colorado's playing these teams with really slow 2nd and 3rd level defenders on a basically weekly basis. And then they were just outrunning him. There were times where he would just throw a bubble and it would be like one guy to beat, and that guy would just beat him. And it would look so bad. It would just look at this will never work at the NFL level. But in addition to that, it just didn't feel like he was running anything close to an offense that would prepare him for the NFL level. But just like with Jackson Dart, we learned quickly that just because a player hasn't done it, in Dart's case and now in Sanders' case, doesn't mean he can't do it. And that means from the mental process standpoint. But it wasn't just that. For me, it was his pocket management was really poor. He took way too many sacks, and it wasn't just on the offensive line. So it was a combination of bad pocket management, not running an offense that I believed in at all, too small for me. Like, I don't want a 6'1", 6'2" quarterback that's not very athletic. Arm talent was really questionable. The biggest one was the Kansas game. It was in Kansas, or it was out in like a neutral field out there in the Midwest, and that arm just looked real bad out there in the cold. He missed a throw at the end of the game to lose the game where it was open for a while. He didn't see it, but even though he didn't see it fast enough and didn't throw it with anticipation, he still could have got it there, but the ball hung in the air and a DB broke on it. It was just, you watch those cold weather games, you're like, if these DBs are breaking on the ball, what are NFL DBs going to do? And that was what scared me. So it was a quarterback without much athleticism, didn't have size, didn't have great drive and arm talent, and didn't play in an offense that I believe prepared him for the NFL. That was what I saw at the college level on the bad side. There were also good things, though, and I want to make that clear. I thought, and I wrote about this when we broke him down, or I guess I didn't write about it, but I talked about it in the YouTube video. He was an excellent red zone quarterback at the college level, better than almost all the quarterbacks I studied besides Cam Ward. And what I mean by that is he had the ability to throw with trajectory and touch in the red zone. And as you saw on that Fannin touchdown from this past week and several of his touchdowns, put the ball in a spot where his receiver can go up and make a play on it. I thought he was a great red zone quarterback, and that really showed in his rapport with Travis Hunter at the collegiate level. Now, yeah, of course, it's against worse DBs, but whatever, it's carried over. So I thought he was a great red zone quarterback, threw a great touch in short areas. I thought he saw I thought at times he could throw with good anticipation in the middle of the field, which we obviously saw in the Judy touchdown this past week. And I thought he did a good job at times layering throws at the college level. And then ultimately, like when he saw it fast enough, he could throw the ball over the top at Colorado because he had the ability to throw a touch and trajectory on the vertical, even though he couldn't really drive the ball. And that's fine. For vertical throws, I don't want you throwing those flat drive throws. I want you kind of layering it up and putting trajectory on it. So there were good things about Sanders too. I thought he threw well on the run, rolling to his right, but when he came to the left and had to move to his left, he just couldn't get the ball out there. And that's kind of because he has that over the top throwing motion rather than throwing from like a 3/4. Didn't show a good ability to change arm slots that often. So yeah, that's probably my eval from the college.
That's a very deep, dense, fleshed out eval. I kind of forgot when I asked this question that you of course watched a ton of Shedeur because of the Giants. So for anybody who does have a little bit of problem following along, with the attention, I would say
My bad.
no. That was great. That was legitimately great
There's
stuff, and it was really cool to hear after I just watched him because a ton of that showed up. But just let's give some bullet notes here. I think the top problem for me, the thing I was worried about the most was the pocket presence and the fading back. Does that track?
Yeah, but he completely tracks. He would escape backwards on a lot of pressure.
And so then that ties in with the athleticism, which I don't actually think is that bad, but isn't good enough to get away with this. In my opinion, the only person I'm seeing come close to getting away with this is Caleb Williams, who's ridiculously fast,
much better.
You don't want to overreact to it too much. There were definitely some blown coverages by the Titans, but I thought there was a lot of good and a lot of bad. And I want to contextualize free books I've provided, that he was third in catchable air yards this week. We got the big game for Fannin. We got a good game from Judy. And Shedeur is, of course, polarizing and everything. So it's well, what does this mean? Are we at a point where we can actually use these guys? In my opinion, it's still just Fannin. I don't think anything has changed significantly other than Shedeur definitely showed better processing than I think we would have been able to just guess because we haven't seen it, like you said. In this game, I thought that the arm talent showed up a little bit where it was there were deep shots that he was taking. It was good to see him be aggressive and be willing to attack that area of the field, but it was a bit underthrown quite a bit. Not quite a bit. Often it was a bit underthrown on these attempts. He also because of some of the chaos that can happen when he's in that fading back. And I think that it looks like to me, they're trying to break those tendencies a little bit. There were times where he stepped up better, especially in the first half. I thought he generally did a good job stepping up into the pocket in the first half. That fell off a lot in the second half. But anyway, because it gets kind of chaotic, his eyes seem like they fall a little bit. Sometimes there were plays where he was able to keep him downfield, but he missed Judy wide open on a deep seam on one play. He ended up scrambling for 14 yards, getting a first down on that. He missed Fannin wide open, and this was on a designed play. So they motion him and have him go through the C gap, and he could have easily taken a shot to him. I don't know what even happened on this. He threw an inaccurate line ball into triple coverage. And then to your point about the arm angle stuff, he had a ball get batted on a line at the line on a throw to Fannin that could have been 15 to 20 yards if it would have changed the arm angle and led Fannin with more touch. We're kind of nitpicking with that kind of stuff, but it is this is
a big part of it. He's 6'1".
For sure. We've seen a lot of shorter quarterbacks lately that have been kind of struggling, that want to get out of the pocket and stuff. And so that can be a problem for him. And I think it could even be a problem. If he doesn't show the ability to step up into the pocket, then I doubt that they're going forward with him, if I had to guess, But this was a pretty encouraging game overall. The other clear thing, I said it got a lot messier in the second half, but he was able to make some really cool plays, made a nice scramble for the touchdown and everything.
Yep.
He needs to just do a better job of playing on time, and that's backed by the stats. He had a 3.57 second average time to throw. That was the third highest mark in week 14. And more notable is that only 19% of his throws came under 2.5 seconds. So that was the lowest rate of any quarterback in terms of quick throws. And he did it at times, but it's he get himself behind too often because he's not willing to just take it. He's greeting or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's there. If you're so worried about the pocket collapsing, this is how you can kind of mitigate that. Caleb is who his tendencies look the most similar to on paper, Caleb Williams. And we saw last year that he almost had a record-breaking number of sacks taken. And again, he's a much, much better athlete in terms of being able to escape from bad situations that he gets himself into. So overall, I mean, you're pretty encouraged, right, with this game from him, but it is the player that we saw. It's not like some huge transformation or something.
Well, I think you kind of described it best as far as like moving forward with this and looking at it. So if his game right now resembles that in some ways of Caleb Williams, which it did at the college level too, right? He still had a really high time to throw. He got more yards on screen passes than any quarterback in the NFL. So, or I'm sorry, in college football. So people would be like, look at his completion percentage. He's so accurate. And I'd be like, what do you mean? Have you seen it adjusted for the net air yards? He's throwing screen passes. Like completion percentage is about the dumbest thing you can point to if you're trying to say a quarterback is accurate. And I hate when people do it. Now, he is a generally accurate quarterback. And in my mind, he's more accurate than anyone in this class, really, from that standpoint.
I think I actually agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that said, don't point to completion percentage unless you're going to adjust it to depth of target. With that said, though, like if what you're saying is true, and I'm sure it is because it looked like that on tape, and he is still taking a long time to throw, still having some drifting issues in the pocket, and playing a lot like Caleb Williams, well, that's not going to work. The only reason that Caleb Williams things work is because he's such a good athlete and can scramble for yards or roll and then throw these insane dots down the field from weird arm angles that Caleb's able to throw from with ripping velocity. The type of quarterback that Sanders needs to be to work at the NFL level, the only way it's going to work over time is if he is a Joe Burrow. That's it. That's the only way it works. He has to manipulate the pocket, get the ball out on time, and utilize his general accuracy to the highest of ability by putting the ball in spots like we saw in that one vertical shot to Fannin or on the Judy play where he, looks off to the right, holds the safety, then comes back to the backside of Judy running a dig and throws that ball on time. That's the only way it's going to work for him. He has to be a perfect timing quarterback. He does not have the physical traits to be anything else. He doesn't have the athleticism to be anything else, and he has no size to be anything else. So if he continues to play like Caleb, then it's not going to work. And that was the biggest issue I had from a translation standpoint with Shedeur. It's all about projection when you're looking at the college quarterback, especially when you're running a Mickey Mouse offense like Pat Shermer ran at Colorado. So for me, it's hard to be, yes, it's enthusiasm. It's like there's levels to this, right? Like, how much I hated and the idea of and watching Dylan Gabriel. I thought it was
really better than Gabriel.
No, this just shows, right? I thought it was a pathetic attempt by a franchise to put someone out there. Dylan Gabriel was so bad at football, and it was so obvious right away. You could see the difference, right? You put Sanders in, and the arm talent is so much better when you compare it to Dylan Gabriel, right? He can get the ball out on time way better than Gabriel. And so there are levels to it. Like the Browns are a clearly better team, and Judy's able to occasionally make a play. You have a guy like Fannin out here who's actually able to be consistent with a quarterback like Sanders. So there's levels to it. I'm enthused from that standpoint. Like he's helped the Browns become a better team. But over time, really, it's going to depend on him getting unbelievable from an anticipation and timing standpoint, like Burrow. That's his path, become Burrow. It just seems like that's not likely. Like Burrow was that guy at LSU already. It's very hard to get rid of some of your tendencies in the NFL level at the quarterback level, at the quarterback position, I should say.
Oh, overall, like extremely encouraging for a 5th round pick. But I think, there are a lot of things to clean up if he's going to be like a starting quarterback at all, let alone a high level quarterback like some people thought he could be. So I think this is a discussion worth having. We're definitely going to get back into, kind of the more actionable stuff here for fantasy, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge what's going on in Cleveland because it's pretty interesting for sure. The people want to take a moment to acknowledge the Zoolander comments. We've actually seen this multiple times, I feel like, on the show where Dan's very focused on what I'm saying, and we've got it's the blue steel look from Dan.
People talk all the time about how I look when I'm listening on podcasts. I don't even notice it, man. Like I'm just like locked in.
You're locked in, yeah.
I'm in a flow state. I have to just look less serious or Zoolander-esque when listening to comments. I don't know. It's just like, just put on a smile. Yay. I don't know. I don't know how to break it. I'm not sure. But I'll find a way. I just
want to say I appreciate it, dude. Like I sometimes have a hard time staying focused on just one thing, because I'm thinking about what's next.
What we're going to say next. It is hard. It is definitely hard to do. Podcasting, baby. We have the hardest job in the world.
Yeah. They're also curious about Shuck. Did you have any thoughts we're going to get into the Saints usage?
We'll be shucking.
You've watched some Shuck. Do you have any thoughts on him compared to Shedeur? Like different type of draft capital, but again, like basically anything at quarterback that's not a top 15 pick is really dicey, is what we've seen throughout history, in terms of them being able to stick around as a starting quarterback. What do you think about those two comparatively?
This is Johnny Airport. Dan's spectrum shows when he's listening intently to audio. Listen, I may be somewhere. I know I'm somewhere on that spectrum, and I am proud of it. With that said, Bry Gazy says, I've never seen Dan Turd left. Just saying, there's a lot of comments. Comments are going. Thank you for the comments, by the way. Comments help grow the show. So please hit the like button. Please comment. I will take all of what you want here. Whatever you'd like to say about me, you can say about me. With that said, Tyler Shuck is who we're talking about here. And they're totally different pros. Like, are you asking me how I see him compared to Shedeur or just how I see him in general?
I would have guessed that both of them are definitely long shots to stick around as starting NFL quarterbacks. Do you feel like Shuck is significantly more likely to do that after watching each of them so far?
Interesting. I don't really want to knock Shedeur because he's had some really big moments so far, specifically this last game. Like, that's probably bigger than anything Shuck has done from an individual standpoint, even though it was against the Titans. They're just such different quarterbacks. Like, Shuck has the ability to change arm slots and throw with different trajectories and touch, I think, better than Shedeur. I think Shuck throws downfield better than Shedeur. He's, in my mind, a better mover than Shedeur and can be more of a weapon as a runner. At Louisville, like, the thing with Shuck was he wasn't the best lateral mover, but he was really good vertically. So I was like, he could be a design runner at the NFL level. Like, you could use him. And the Saints have been like, all right, we got our 6'5" dude who can move forward in a good way. Let's use him as a runner. Let's run zone read. Like, let's do the things that are cheat codes for a lot of these teams that have athletic quarterbacks. So that's a big factor for me from just like finding ways to generate offense. Like, a lot of these teams, these quarterbacks, like Daniel Jones earlier this year before he was hurt with Steichen, and Dart earlier this year before he got hurt. Like, they generated offense by using zone read and by using design runs. So I think he can do that. And that in some ways does limit Shedeur because he's not able to do that. Shuck has done a good job throwing an intermediate range, which is the most important range in the NFL. I think he's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in intermediate middle of the game. And that's something that I saw at Louisville. Like, I thought he had that ability. He was actually the quarterback I thought was my biggest sleeper when I first started watching all the quarterbacks in the class. I just came off of him toward the end because I felt like he did a poor job under pressure, throwing off his back foot, like not kind of stepping into the throws and managing the pocket. With that said, do I think he's a better bet than Sanders long term? I find I'll say it like this, Jacob. To me, quarterback is a zero-sum game. So I don't really like saying this guy's a better bet than that guy if I don't think either is going to work out at the NFL level. So my bet would be that long-term, neither is a full-time. It is like a long starter in the NFL.
Totally fair. Yeah. Shuck, I feel like there have been some people who are such big Shuck truthers that they think that he's like this hidden gem that is like actually able to be an NFL quarterback who can kind of unlock every area of the field. I haven't gotten to watch enough of him to say one way or the other. Like, I've seen enough to be curious about it. But I want to reserve judgment on that, even though he is, 38 years old. So we probably need to decide.
He definitely has more upside, I think, than a lot of these quarterbacks, despite his age. And that was why he was originally like my sleeper. Like, early in the draft process, I was like, this kid is the sleeper because you could see it on tape. His highs were high, right? He could throw downfield. He can see the middle of the field really well and throw those intermediates. He throws a good touch trajectory. He can move. He's big. He can see over the pocket. He's got the frame you want. There are reasons to believe that things can get good, but I feel like situationally, he's got a pretty good thing going on. A lot, like, he's got decent receivers. Kellen Moore really designs really good offense, I think, for these quarterbacks. So we'll see. I think it's been a little ridiculous personally, and this is not coming off. This is going to come off as way biased, Jacob, but I think it's ridiculous personally that people have said like Shuck's the best quarterback. Looked like the best quarterback in this class. Like,
no
to me,
way.
Yeah, there's a lot of that talk on Twitter right now. A lot of that talk.
You got to stay away from those parts of Twitter, brother.
The fact that it's because the Giants are 2-12 though. Like, that's or 2-11, whatever they are. Like, that's the reason. If Dart had just won 4 more games, this wouldn't even be a discussion. He's thrown for way more touchdowns. He's ran for way more touchdowns. He's made way more fun plays than Shuck has. But it is what it is. So I'll digress. I'll digress on that point.
All right, cool. The chat's saying that they miss the Spencer Rattler days for Chris Olave. We're gonna get back after our second break here with some Rattler Shuck splits, some more deep beyond the box score dives on some gross stuff like that. We'll be right back.
They want to take this place from us.
My family is in danger. My wife is lost to me, and I don't have time.
1923, new season now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Okay, the New Orleans Saints. We have pretty much an even split in terms of games played with Shuck and Rattler at this point. And it's true. Olave's usage was better with Rattler, slightly better with Rattler, even with Rashid Shaheed on the team, which is I think noteworthy. But probably it's not a huge difference. And I think we've seen Shuck be pretty money on some deep balls that we just weren't really getting that much with Rattler. So I wonder if maybe it gets better to close out the year here. But 32% first read target rate for Olave. With Spencer Rattler, it's 31% with Shuck. And so that it's the fact that it's higher with Rattler, even with Shaheed, who's a legitimately good player and they were getting the ball to a lot, is definitely noteworthy to me. The other thing is he averaged 14.1 catchable expected fantasy points per game. With Rattler, that's down to 10.8 with Shuck. So that's Vele. In the 3 games following their bye week, it's 34% Olave, 23% Juwan Johnson, and 19% Vele. You might have noticed that all 3 rates went up. It's because we subtracted Alvin Kamara from the equation. He had a 10% rate. We're going to talk about the Giants too. A similar kind of thing has happened with Cam Scatterbo removed. It doesn't necessarily just shift over to the replacement running back. That's kind of been the case with both these offenses. Catchable XFP per game. So this is the expected fantasy points model from the Fantasy Points data suite, data.fantasypoints.com if you want to find any of their stuff. It's pretty sweet. And I'm filtering it just to include balls that were catchable. 10.8 XFP per game for Olave, 7.3 for Juwan Johnson, 5.8 for Vele. So that makes Juwan like kind of usable, but really only for deep leagues. Mm-hmm. And Olave is like a low-end wide receiver 2 or a mid wide receiver 2 is kind of that number. Vele not really usable. But again, since the bye, it's been better. We've seen more time for Shuck to get into the offense, feel comfortable, and also not as much going to the running back position. So we've got 13.3 is the number for Olave since the bye. That's like approaching wide receiver 1 numbers. It's only 3-game sample size. Vele jumps all the way up to 8.5, and Juwan Johnson's up slightly, 7.8. This past week wasn't as good. For reference, from weeks 1 through 8, it was 14.1 for Olave, 9.5 for Juwan Johnson, and 8.8 for Rashid Shaheed. So it was a little bit better with Rattler, but still, it's with Kamara out, it's pretty concentrated on just these 3 players. Olave clearly gives you the most upside as the speed threat, the big play threat. And then Vele and Juwan Johnson are both hanging around 7 to 8 expected catchable fantasy points per game for full PPR, which is fine if you need to go there, but there's not much upside. How do you feel after digging into that? Because we've talked about these Saints guys. Olave's been one of our biggest buys this year. Anything on the Saints?
Olave's been probably the best value buy that you have. I think was one of your best calls of the year. It's just, on one hand, I feel like as the season goes on, like we have these last 3 fantasy games, it could be better for Olave just in the sense that him and Chuck have a better rapport. Time goes on, the timing gets better. They practice more reps. On the other hand, I feel like Vele is also kind of coming into the picture here. Somebody who they traded for, I think they gave up like a 3rd-round pick, one of the dumbest and worst trades I've ever seen from a franchise. I hate to say it to Shadow. We know we have a huge Saints fan who's in our chat all the time, and I'm going to shout him out right here. He deserves an ongoing investigation, but that was one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen, really. It made no sense. They're a rebuilding team, and they gave away a mid-round pick for Devon Vele. One of the stupidest things I've seen. But with that said, they got
Vele's like 27 or 28 years old is the big thing. Like they've got this weird thing for young or inexperienced players who are also not young.
Yeah, I don't get it. The trade never is like wild trade, but if you're going to do it, get him going. So they're finally getting him going. So that part worries me a little bit from a Olave standpoint. And I just think generally speaking, Shuck is way more of and you could see this on his tape at Louisville, a quarterback who's willing to go through his progressions and not willing to just kind of take what's there or lock into a first read, as Rattler was more of that kind of quarterback. Also, with that said, I think Rattler's skill set fits Olave better too, because he's more of a drive thrower of the football. Not that he throws a great drive, but just a little bit better than maybe a quarterback like Shuck. So I don't feel like we're going to get back to those old Olave, early season Olave breakout games, but I'm fine putting it, like, he's given the wide receiver landscape, I'm fine playing him in your fantasy playoffs.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember where I landed on him yesterday. Rest of season rankings. I had Olave at wide receiver 13. Let me just throw these up on the screen for you. Anybody here stand out to you that you would move him ahead of or behind after digging into it a little bit more today? T. Higgins and concussion protocol ahead of him. Jalen Waddle ahead of him.
Fine with both.
Flowers, Jameson
you know
Williams.
how I feel about my boy, but I don't want. We can't. He never scores touchdowns. We can't put him there. Metcalf is the interesting one. If they've done anything different, like if they're willing to lean on that change. I think it's fine though here. Like, obviously if Drake London plays and he's fully healthy, we would consider that. But other than that, I think we're good.
All righty.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the New York Giants. Close to Dan's heart, of course. As I've dug into this, man, I feel like Theo Johnson is really underrated. So you saw he was tight end 12 in my rest season rankings. Consensus has him at tight end 17. And I think he's available in a decent number of leagues. I think there's some upside here. You never know what you're going to get with the Giants, I guess I would say. But I think there's definitely some upside. And I think that they're incentivized to get him going as one of the young pieces of the team here.
Yeah.
So first read target rate for these Giants in games played with Jackson Dart, 28% for Wan'Dale Robinson, 23% for Theo Johnson. 23% is really good for a tight end.
Yep.
21% for Darius Slayton. That is pretty good for a player who gets so many deep looks. Cam Skattebo in the games that he played is 11%. So that, is right on par with the Kamara number that I gave earlier. He was definitely an important part of the offense when healthy. Wanted to bring up Wan'Dale because we did talk about like his splits are drastically diminished with Dart in the game, but still they're not bad. I think he's still an okay flex is kind of where I've arrived on him. I want to get into my rankings for the wide receiver position specifically for week 15. I'll do that after I finish up with the Giants here because it is a crazy, crazy task trying to rank these receivers this week. Okay, so catchable expected fantasy points per game for the Giants with Jackson Dart at quarterback, 10.1 for Wan'Dale, 9.6 for Theo Johnson. That's right behind Wan'Dale. That's like right behind the Olave with Shuck number that I gave you. Well ahead of Juwan Johnson. I don't know if he's going to be the most reliable tight end at converting his expected fantasy points into actual fantasy points, but that's a really high number. 8.3 for Darius Slayton is his number. That's fine. It's going to be hit or miss, but he's somebody you can go to in fantasy. In the 3 games without Skattebo, the first 3 target rates are 36% for Wan'Dale, 36% up from 28% overall with Dart, 27% for Theo, up from 23%, and 20% for Darius Slayton. So pretty much no change. Those are the 3 games with Dart and no Skattebo. Anything stand out to you, Dan? Let me throw my week 15 rankings on the screen here.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say, but when you see the schedule, which has Raiders and Commanders on it for the Giants, there's some hope. There's some belief that this could be a surprise offense. And if you look at it, I saw this earlier today. I was really excited when I saw this, and just a real testament to the importance of quarterback play and the importance of offensive line play as it pertains to offense at the NFL level, and how very, very overrated, I would say, for the most part, receiver and weapons are when it comes to generating offense. And this is mostly me just saying all that to filibuster as I try to find the stat that I am looking for, but I'm close. I'm very, very close, though maybe I may never get there because I guess.
Let me talk about my rankings then while you find whatever that's going on over there.
It's a good stat. Oh, we're going to get there. We got there. Okay. So the stat was, the Giants are 12th in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball. They're 11th in passing. They've done that without Neighbors. They've done that without Cam Skattebo. Both got injured earlier in the year. Theo Johnson is part of that offense that we're talking about, 11th in passing, 12th in EPA. He's also, and this was the one I was searching so long for, but found, part of a really rare group of players. This is second-year tight ends with at least 50 receptions, 500 yards and 5 touchdowns on 80% of the snaps since 2012. George Kittle, Tucker Kraft, Brock Bowers, and now Theo Johnson, who's played 17 games, had 86% snap share, 54.9 receptions. I don't know how that, I guess that's average or prorated, 596 and 6.5 receiving touchdowns. So he's joining a really rare tier.
You gotta give this to me again. What are the qualifications? I wasn't quite ready.
Second year tight ends who have gone at least 50 receptions, 500 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns, and played 80% of the snaps. And I think that last part super
in a
important.
Season at all in their second year season, or like
their second year season,
14 or whatever.
There's not a lot of. It's weird. Like second year tight ends don't usually produce the way that Theo Johnson is produced, and I think it's really important to note that. I think Giants fans who are listening to this are probably like, but all the drops. And yes, Theo Johnson has had some awful drops. Like his season could be way better. He's dropped long touchdowns from Jackson Dart twice. He's dropped long intermediate third downs from Jackson Dart, perfect throws multiple times, 5, 6, 7. I can count on my hand. He's had some really bad drops. He doesn't always look like the most fluid, natural receiver, getting his hands and head around to the football. He's missed a lot of opportunities, but he's also made a lot of plays as well, both after the catch and on a lot of these throws, rising above defenders, making hands catches. So it's like there are some bad moments and some really good moments. I think the bigger factor here is the 80% snaps, because the Giants don't want to take him off the field. He's 6'5", 260, and a really, really good blocker for a second-year tight end. That shows on the tape week after week. He has a frame in the blocking game that you can scheme for if you are Mike Kafka or whoever is the coach for the Giants next year and this year, because you know that you have a different body type. You can't scheme when you have Evan Ingram or Kyle Pitts on the line of scrimmage. That's not good for your run game. When you have Theo Johnson on the line of scrimmage, that is good for your run game. So he's going to be on the field near 90% of the snaps. And the Giants have been generating their pass game through 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field. Theo Johnson in the intermediate range on outbreakers, Theo Johnson on inbreakers, and Theo Johnson running the vertical seam that less than the first 2. So he's, to me, a big part of this offense. And if we look at these 2 matchups coming up, Raiders, Washington, I could see big game for Theo in both of them.
Yeah, man. You're getting the chat fired up. We're talking about one of the most athletic tight ends to come into the draft ever.
Yeah. His RAS was comparable to Jimmy Graham, though I think Giants fans who have watched say, okay, this is ridiculous. He's not Jimmy Graham. And you're right.
Who is? Yeah, I got him at tight end 12 rest of the season. I think it's totally valid.
Fair.
And this usage underlying it is really strong. All right. Let's talk about these receivers. So week 15, wide receiver rankings, what I've got on the screen here. It really starts to get interesting around wide receiver 21. I've got Shedeur McMillan much lower than consensus. I'm worried that they're going to really lean on the ground game here. We won't see much for T-Mac. We're coming off a game where he had 2 targets. And the Saints have been tough defensively, like Dan brought up. Just beyond him is Wan'Dale Robinson, in between Shedeur McMillan and Justin Jefferson. That's where we find Wan'Dale Robinson, right where he belongs. Beyond that is Emeka Egbuka, Juwan Jennings, Christian Watson on the road against Denver, Chris Godwin, Deebo Samuel, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey on the road against the Chiefs, all the way down to wide receiver 30. Luther Burden, wide receiver 32 against the Browns, another offense we're going to talk about today. The Bears pass catchers. How does this look for you overall? If there's anybody you want to talk about, we talked about a lot of these players yesterday. And then specifically with Wan'Dale and Darius Slayton, I've got Slayton at wide receiver 35, which is much higher than consensus. So that's beyond Shakir, Burden, Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman on the road against Seattle. I mean, if you want to start Slayton over him, I would not blame you. And that's ahead of Jaden Higgins, we're about to talk about, Kayshon Boutte, we're about to talk about, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Darnell Mooney, Rashid Shaheed. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's tough to get excited about Wan'Dale Robinson rest of season, as we went over yesterday. Near half his production came with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. It's a different role for him with Jackson Dart. It looks different. In general, like we saw more of the Daniel Jones type stuff, the short area targets, him kind of being used around the line of scrimmage, screen passes. As far as Slayton goes, and I know the production's been there for a while, so people are like, wow, he's like leading the NFL in slot receptions and slot yards. How do I ever bench this guy in PPR? And I'm fine going forward with him. He's got 2 great matchups, Washington and Vegas. So like, I think good things can happen potentially in those games for Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a good player who's made big plays. I just don't think he personally fits Dart's skill set as well. As far as Slayton goes, there have been opportunities, man. Slayton's just been hurt. Like he's gotten injured in game twice during 2 of Jackson Dart's starts. He had a long 68-yard touchdown called back in the Bears game, I believe it was, for Jackson, or maybe it might have been one of those games in that range. So there's been opportunities. I would have a little bit of faith potentially in him moving forward, but I don't know. Despite the good matchups, it seems really hard to trust anyone in this offense outside of, as crazy as it sounds, Theo Johnson.
All right. Yeah, we are all aboard with Theo. Yeah, I don't know if you can trust it. So do you think that this is too high for Wandale?
Oh, with Wandale, you mean? Yeah.
You're saying definitively you can trust the Theo Johnson stuff?
I feel good about Theo Johnson.
All right. You know more about the Giants than I do.
I do. The way they run that offense with 12 personnel, it's just designed to get him opportunities. And the red zone, he's been great for them. As far as, and Dart scores touchdowns. As far as this goes, though, Wandale, I would have him a little bit lower. I guess I'd play Jefferson over him, as disgusting as that may be, just because it's Jefferson. Igbuka, Juwan Jennings, my boy, I got to put over him. Yeah, but it's in this range, right? Like these are, we talked about this blob yesterday on the show. This is an unconfident blob right here. Like there's nothing looking good in that blob to me. Nothing I could trust.
For reference on a few point totals that are relevant here in terms of what Vegas is expecting, the Vikings are up from where we've seen them. They're up at 20 and a half points against the Cowboys. So the Giants are substantially ahead of that at 24 and a half points against the Commanders. That's higher than the New England Patriots this week. That's higher than the Chiefs. That's higher than the Packers. That's higher than the Bears. It's the exact same range. It's tied with the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Lions. That's how many points Vegas is expecting from Jackson Dart and the Giants this week. So I do think that there's some intrigue with somebody like Slayton and with Wandale. I get what Dan's saying about like the targets are lower value, even though, I gave the 36% first 3 target rate in games played with Dart and no Scadaboo. A lot of those are freaking 2 yards,
Yeah.
But that builds your floor, right?
True.
And so if this is a healthy game environment where they're able to move the ball enough to, in theory, have a median of 24 points, that means hopefully not a lot of 3 and outs and maybe 4 or 5 of these types of targets. And if he catches 80% of them because they're easy catches, that's like 5 points just printing automatic. And then there is upside. He's probably not getting the Theo Johnson level of touchdown equity or whatever, but like he could score. He could have a long play. We've seen him do stuff like that. Maybe it's been with other quarterbacks, but I feel pretty good about starting Wandale. And I really think Slayton is somebody that you can probably find on your waiver wire, depending on your league, and is a totally fine start. I've got him as a top 36 receiver this week.
I'm good with it, honestly. I mean, we have to really consider the landscape right now. It is not a passing landscape right now in the NFL, even just on this weekly base, like narrowing it just to this week, right? Like 2 of our quarterbacks that should be leading good passing games, Mahomes and Herbert. Do we feel any kind of confidence that cold Arrowhead game is going to have a lot of passing yards? No, that could be a gross 13-10 type game that brutalizes fantasy leagues because there's a lot of people starting a lot of players in that game. And I feel like that's, as I look across the landscape, there's a lot of games on this slate that are like that.
Yeah. Can you confirm that Mike Evans is looking good to play? I just saw that in the chat.
Edio says he's looking good to play. I believe.
Can you confirm? And I'm going to talk about the Patriots.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at that.
Just quickly on the Patriots. We've got 11 games played with Kayshon Boutte this year. I wanted to dig into those because I remember them being pretty good for Boutte. And Diggs has been kind of all over the place this year. So I was curious what the actual underlying volume looked like. In those 11 games with Kayshon Boutte, it's a 22% first 3 target rate for Stephon Diggs, 19% for Hunter Henry, and 15% for Boutte. But these are deep targets that we're talking about. These are end zone targets that we're talking about. So I think 15% is something you can maybe get away with in a flex, in a pinch, if you have to. I've got him wide receiver 38 this week. I've got him ahead of DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, some of these disappointing wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall, Alec Pierce. I've got bumped way down against the Seahawks on the road.
Have to.
So 15% first 3 target rate's not bad. If you look at their actual production in these games, Boutte outscored Diggs when both players have played together. 11.3 points per game for Boutte, 10.5 for Diggs, 11.7 for Hunter Henry. It's not a tiny sample size, but it is a smallish sample size in terms of looking at end zone targets, 11 games. But significantly more of the end zone targets were focused on Henry and Booty in these games. It was 6 end zone targets for Booty, 5 for Henry, 2 for Diggs. I don't necessarily know why Diggs wouldn't be somebody who would be trusted in that range, so I don't want to overreact to that. But I think mostly as I dug into this, like Henry is a really good start. We've seen it come lately. He's been a really inconsistent player this year, but the ups can be really huge. And I think we're going to see games where the Patriots are probably going to put a lot of points on the board over the next 3 weeks. So I feel pretty good about starting any of them if you have to go there.
Yeah, I think just landscape-wise, it makes sense what you said. There's an opportunity for big play score for Booty. He's been pretty good in the red zone. I do have an update on what you asked about. Greg Allman, who does a great job of covering the Bucs and has for a while, said Todd Bowles said Mike Evans has shown everything he needed to show in practice to get activated and make his return tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. And just given the nature of his injury, I think he should be able to do everything on the football field. Like, look, normal season right now, Evans, I'd be willing to move him into my top 15, honestly, just given the bad landscape.
It's a great matchup, too. It's an Atlanta defense that's super blitz heavy, plays a ton of like more single high safety coverage than any team in the league. They haven't really been that adaptive week to week. It seems like they would in a division matchup here. You know, they know what they've got here going against Mike Evans, but still, that's not really what we've seen from them. So I think this is a spot where they could get him going down the field.
Yeah, no, he's to me, must start given the wide receiver landscape. Now, with that said,
I'm hesitant to say must start because
because Baker's been so erratic.
That, and they've definitely eased guys in. They've done it like Bucky. He still got a lot of touches, but like his snap rates have been around 50%. They did the same thing with Godwin in that first game back, and like that's how they've talked about all these guys. They've said it with Evans that like it wouldn't be fair to him to expect him to come into his full role right away.
Okay.
But at the same time, like there's some urgency with him right now, right? Like they do need to win.
It's also not like he's coming off like a hamstring or some kind of issue like that. He's coming off like it's a bad injury. What was it? A broke collarbone, or was it something shoulder or collarbone? I don't remember which one. I think it was collarbone. Either way, it's not like a soft tissue type injury in the sense of like, is it going to impact his running and his cutting and his explosiveness from that standpoint? I feel like it's more like your heel.
It is a collarbone.
You get back out there. Obviously, you don't want to break it again, but like there's not a highly likelihood or anything. It's healed. So if there was a time for him to buck that trend, it would be coming off a collarbone rather than a hamstring for me, or a PCL or something like that, an MCL. With that said, I'm totally okay thinking that he won't play a full complement of snaps. With that said, though, like in Atlanta, great matchup. Like I'm looking at this landscape as you're putting it up right now. There's no way I'm going to feel more confident with Shedeur McMillan personally, or like Justin Jefferson or Deebo Samuel, even Igbuka. I'd rather Evans than Igbuka, honestly. We move down the list. We're looking at like Lad McConkey and Arrowhead with Herbert not I'll start him over any of these guys. And this is the range of wide receiver 2-3. So to me, that makes him a must start.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm quite there with like moving him into the Shedeur McMillan, Justin Jefferson range, but it's pretty similar. They're all pretty similar. I think, the line where I would say no for sure is Zay Flowers and DK Metcalf and Sutton.
Yep, agreed. That's where it cuts off for me as well.
And for Igbuka, I do think that this could be a good thing to get Evans back, have Atlanta focused on him, and open more space up. I think this is a match where Igbuka could play well. I moved Chris Godwin down a little bit because I think his playing time will drop a little bit. But if Evans isn't in his full-time role, that would still leave some snaps open on the perimeter for Godwin. He had an 88% route rate this past week, Godwin did. So if he doesn't drop way down, Godwin is still usable. Honestly, I don't want to drop. I'm going to leave Godwin like pretty much. I see them all really similarly. I hope that doesn't feel like it's a cop-out. But like I feel like they all could have a good game, and we could see a big game from Baker in this spot. So I'm fine starting any of them over any of these guys in this range if you don't feel good about Christian Watson against Denver, or Deebo Samuel with what Washington's offense just did, or Shedeur McMillan if you think that it's just going to be a low volume game.
Yeah,
I'll dig into that more. Tomorrow's Mastering Matchup show with Ryan. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. You're the highest on Evans of the group if you're choosing one, right?
Of the 3 Bucs receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah. He's Mike Evans, man. They have such a good
Yeah.
rapport, him and Baker, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah. I think your point is valid, like about it not being a lower body injury or anything like that.
To me, that's big.
Should be in good shape. Okay. So we talked about we need to talk about the Texans next. We've got the Texans. We just talked about the Patriots. The Texans, the Bears are the two teams I want to hit on before we get to another break here, and then finish up with some running back stuff. Okay. So the Texans, 2 games with CJ Stroud back. I feel like just in general over the past month or so, the Texans have kind of found some answers to work around their offensive line and find some life in the passing game. Stroud looked really good against the Chiefs, I thought. And so, we're kind of hopeful for some of these guys. Maybe the rookies emerge. I did bring up that Jalen Noel has played more than Kirk, which I don't think is actionable yet, but hopefully just points to a continued move towards being willing to trust these rookies because they give the offense more life. In the 2 games with Stroud, we've got a 33% first read target rate for Nico Collins. That's really good for somebody who's getting downfield looks and has the ability to turn any given play into a long touchdown. 33% for him, 19% for Jaden Higgins, 14% for Xavier Hutchinson, 12% for Dalton Schultz, only 5% for Noel. So the playing time is up, but they're not designing anything for him. He's just out there. If he wins on his own, if Stroud finds him, that's when you get a big play. But I'm encouraged to see Nico up above 30% because there have been times this season where we've been worried about the fact that with a new play caller here, with more wide receivers added and everything, that it's been a little bit more balanced. And when Davis Mills came in, it was is this better for him or something, than CJ Stroud, which didn't really make sense as to why that would be the case, but that's what we were seeing. So it's good to see that in these 2 games of Stroud back, it's more of the same for Nico, where he's the guy, he's dominating. If you look at catchable XFP though, to my point about him being able to just turn volume into something huge, his volume's not actually that big, but the results have been there, but he only has 8.7 catchable expected fantasy points per game in these 2 starts with Stroud. Schultz is at 8.1. It's been decent volume for him. And Jaden Higgins is at 7.0. Nobody else is above 2.5. Did you watch the Chiefs Sunday night game? Did you get your eyes on this Texans offense much?
Just broadcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on the receivers or Jaden Higgins, as we've seen more and more of him during his rookie season here?
I do. They're starting to use Jaden Higgins as a matchup threat, which is awesome to see because that's exactly what you draft that player for. Get him in a one-on-one you like and then get the ball out to him. I honestly feel really as I'm looking at this slate, Jacob, if I am in a tough bind, and I know a lot of the managers listening right now are in these tough binds, and I need to play a receiver, I'm going to this game and I'm going to the Texans offense because a few things are in play here. One, they've discussed how this offense has evolved over the course of the season, and it was a new offensive coordinator, and how they started to hit their stride in those Davis Mills game. 2, we see the steady drumbeat continue with Stroud coming back into the lineup for Davis Mills and actually furthering what they're doing. Pass first, finding solutions, a lot of quick game, a lot of intermediate stuff. Stroud making throws off plane and off platform as he's breaking pocket. He made a really good one last week against the Chiefs. And it all continued throughout, as the steady drumbeat usually does, or if it is a steady drumbeat, I should say, in Arrowhead against the tough Chiefs defense. That was impressive. He almost threw a lot of yards in that first half. Obviously, things changed in the second half. The Texans had a lead and they sat on the ball. But as I look at this slate, I'm looking at this as being as one of the best matchups on the slate for random production from receivers if we need receivers, because this is an offense that outside of Nico Collins, it's hard to predict where the production's coming from. Higgins is a matchup threat. Kirk does it sometimes, didn't do it last game. Jalen Noel can make plays as well. But I look at it, weather-controlled game inside a dome, right? Houston's home. They're a better team at home. I believe Houston's home here against Arizona. I'm almost positive. Yes, Houston's home. And this is one of our quit defenses. The Cardinals are a quit defense. They're playing with a lame duck coach. Gannon is almost a guarantee to not be back. And they look like they quit last year. You get this at the end of seasons. You get defenses that have quit on their coach. They know the coach is going to be fired, and these are big time performances. Look back throughout your history of the NFL and throughout your fantasy seasons. You'll see a lot of these spots of lame duck coaches that are about to be fired and their defenses quit on them. They don't play in the second half. And against the Rams, it totally looked like they quit on again. And I'm just going to be honest about the situation. So I go into this game and think it could be another quick game. The Texans just roll here and just rip through it. And Stroud goes for 300 almost in the first half, like 225 in the first half, gets another 75 or so, 200 in the first half, another 100 in the second half. So this is like a spot for me. I really like Stroud this week. I really like the Texans pass game.
Yep. So this is the second straight game that Noel has run more routes than Kirk. Kirk had a 43% route rate. Christian Kirk, I think we're pretty much moved on from him. So the next thing would be not so much Xavier Hutchinson. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. It's pretty rare to mix in 4 or 5 different receivers, but that's what they're doing. It was 43% Kirk, 46% Noel, 46% Hutchinson, 51% Higgins, and 94% Nico Collins. The game before, it was 62% Higgins. So I'm hopeful that we can see that number keep creeping up. He got 5 targets in this game. Thought it looked good again. And they, like you said, they are using him as a mismatch.
Yep.
So keep an eye on that because I think both these rookies can be fantasy relevant. I really, really like Noel. So does Dan. We're big Jalen Noel slappies here. Okay, let's wrap up with the Bears. We're going to hit another break after that, and then we'll be back to get into running backs, answer any questions you guys have. Make sure everybody's feeling good heading into the Week 15 fantasy playoff matchups here. Chicago Bears. I've got the fantasy points and data suite up on the screen, and the Week 14 volume breakdown for the Bears. 64% route rate for Luther Burden, did trail Zacchaeus and DJ Moore, but we saw him account for 36% of the team's receiving yards. Just keeps adding to that big yard per route run rate number on the year, and a 33% first read target rate for Luther Burden, 25% for DJ Moore. So this is the first time we've seen the Ben Johnson offense without Rome Odunze, and it was pretty much focused on those two. Loveland and Komet, the tight end group, got a 25% first read target rate combined, and similar routes. Loveland ran one more route than Komet. I brought up on, I think it was Monday's show, that Loveland and Burden were the only two that got multiple non-play action targets. So they're really building everything around the run game for the Bears against the Packers. And then almost all their passing action was built off of the deception of the run game. I think these two are the two that can actually win routes on their own. Do you have any Luther Burden thoughts? Does this look about right to you to have him below Brian Thomas Jr., below the Tampa Bay receivers, even below McConkey, because he's filling a similar type of role to McConkey, just maybe not playing quite as much, but the volume was better this past week than it has been for McConkey lately.
Yeah, I still think I'd put him below there. Look, the schedule isn't great rest of the season. 2 really cold games, another Packers matchup. I just don't expect too much passing game success there. And it's still so inconsistent. This is also done last week. You're talking about the role being a little better, which is true, but it does need to be said that Rome Odunze didn't play. Like if he's back on the field, I think that does kind of just change everything in the pecking order a little bit. So
sure,
yeah, not a lot of confidence for me. Like the player a lot. Just don't love how the rest of the season schedule plays out. And this is just going to be a team that's going to run the ball.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you feel it seems like less confidence in these guys like Colson Loveland and Luther Burden than the other players that we've talked about. But I don't want to overstate that. It's more so like you don't know about the confidence in their role, but like the ability they have maybe is enough to offset it. So like I've got Luther Burden ahead of Slayton, ahead of Kayshon Boutte and Jaden Higgins, some of these players we've talked about. Would you rather start those guys?
I think so. I think for me, yeah. It's not just an environment thing because I think, people always says like EDU says in the comments, unless it's snow, rain, sleet, the passing game will be fine. Why do you think cold weather hurts a team? It's because I'm not playing in cold weather because we see it. Look at the point totals. Look at how Vegas treats it. The unders are the total points projected in the game go way down in these cold weather games. It's not as easy to throw the football in the cold. It's not as easy to catch the football in the cold. Why do you think drops go up so much? Why do you think all these Arrowhead games are ending with such low scores? So no, I stand by that. And as far as it goes, like, I'll take a shot on Slayton against a bad defense before I take a shot on Burden. I'll take a shot on Higgins in dome against the defense that quit like the Cardinals before I take a shot on Burden. It comes down to that for me. That's just how I look at it, though, Jacob. To me, I view these all as pretty much coin flips. We don't know, like there's no, with the exception of the roles we know that happen week after week. These are the guys that we don't know. So I'll take the better environments for passing, and I'll take the better offense. Like, I look at this Bears-Browns game, for example, right? In your mind, would it surprise you if the Bears have fewer than 22 passing attempts in this game?
No, but I feel the same way about Tedder McMillan.
Right.
So then are you moving him behind Jaden Higgins?
Oh yeah, no, like, that's a good point, right? So I guess at some point you have to bet on the talent, but I think with McMillan, the role is better than Burden's.
It wasn't last week.
It wasn't in McMillan's last game before the bye. You mean?
Yeah, compared to Burden,
right.
Most recently what we've seen.
How about this? Just a sheer snap percentage.
Yeah, McMillan is the team's number one receiver. Like,
at least McMillan is my point. Like, at least he's on the field.
Yeah,
it's rough, man. It's rough out there, man.
Yeah. No, I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit.
No, it's a good thing, because I've never been as confident as McMillan as you have been this season. I think they want to run the ball. They're not throwing it, and it's a similar type situation, but at least he's on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw Tedder McMillan was exactly like why I've remained like maybe annoyingly stubborn with the McMillan stuff, is like he had 2 targets. That's awful. But he was one of them was worth 11.5 fantasy points.
Right.
Like,
that's the thing. Burden hasn't shown that yet to me.
I think his film has looked really, really good, and he just hasn't. I mean, he's had like a fourth of the opportunity as a route runner in terms of like total volume that McMillan has.
Right.
Like, I think if he had a full season of being the wide receiver 1 for a team, we would be feeling really good about him.
But that's kind of my point. Like, he's he's not being on the field as much. There's fewer opportunities because of it, just sheer volume wise.
But lately, he's on the field more. Even before, I mean, it's not like the Odunes, I think, is the only reason he was on the field.
No, I know that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do with that what you will. I'll talk with Ryan tomorrow about some of these matchups and some of these tough spots. Wide receiver is probably the hardest place to feel any confidence this week.
It's rough.
Hopefully we've helped you. I mean, at this point, we're an hour and 17 minutes into this, so we've dedicated basically 3 hours to wide receiver, I feel like, over the past 2 days.
I know.
So hopefully you feel good about some of these, new players stepping into larger roles and whatnot. Hope you feel some level of confidence about the passing games and stuff. We're going to take another break and get right back and talk about running backs.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? Can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons.
It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
I wasn't ready to die.
The wait is over.
I need to know what happened.
Discover the mystery everyone's been talking about. School Spirits. Every episode of all seasons now streaming on Paramount Plus.
What's up, Dan?
What up? What up?
When you were watching Community originally, and then Rick and Morty, did you know they were made by the same people at the time?
Of course, yeah. I knew it was Dan Harmon.
Yeah. I shouldn't say same people, just the same creator, Dan Harmon. I didn't know that going into Community.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I really didn't know anything about Community. I knew that Donald Glover was in it. I knew people liked it. It was kind of a cult classic kind of feel.
Cult classic for sure.
And I get it, and I'm like, this isn't even like you've compared it to other sitcoms. And I guess The Office is sort of fair because The Office
No, it's not like Office in part. That's an unfair comparison.
The Office does some meta stuff in terms of like breaking the fourth wall, right? Like they do that. But like I get into this, and like this is barely a sitcom. It's almost just like making fun of a sitcom. And like episode 4 or something, I see Dan Harmon's name. I'm like, of course, like everything's a joke. This is Dan Harmon. I should have known. But finished it up last night. Really good stuff.
Oh, nice. Finished the series. Good. It didn't end the way I would love. That had that one weird season, like I said, on the internet that was like released on the. I think Dan Harmon left it and then came back to it, or something in the middle there happened. They lost Glover, which was huge because like Troy and Abed were, in my opinion, the two best characters. Though I really thought everyone was really good in the show and worked well together. Chevy Chase was a little weird, then he left the show. But, like, it was kind of fine. It kind of worked. But yeah, I would say it's up there. For me, it's probably out of that era of comedies, it's one or two. Like it's funnier, I think, and more clever than Parks, but I just loved Parks, man. I loved the feel of Parks. I loved the jokes. I loved Ron Swanson. I loved Andy Dwyer. Like I loved everything, and I loved the kind of dramedy of it. But yeah, I'd say Office clear third for me on that list of those three.
We've got some good ones in the chat here. We've got The League, of course, for the culture
never watched
here.
The League, unfortunately.
The League is good. It's an insane show. You know, it's dated, but a lot of these are at this point. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, one that I think
Brooklyn Nine-Nine
love
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah.
I've actually not seen Twin Peaks. I hear about it a lot. Have you seen?
Dude,
Twin Peaks?
Just watched Twin Peaks because my brother got me into it.
People compare The Chair Company to Twin Peaks a lot.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The Chair Company to Twin Peaks. No, I don't think so
Don't
at all.
see it?
I don't think you could, like, David Lynch, I don't think and he's the creator of Twin Peaks. I don't think he compared to anything I've ever seen on TV. So maybe in that sense, it's like The Chair Company, because that's what made The Chair Company so great, that like it's new TV. It's not what we're used to. It's something different, but nothing can really compare to what David Lynch did in that show. And I saw that. I haven't seen the movie yet, The Walk with Me or Fire Walk with Me. And I haven't seen the return of it. Eventually I'll get back into it. But
We've got Seinfeld GOAT in the chat. We've got Arrested Development GOAT.
Yeah, now we're talking goat stuff.
For me, it's Arrested Development. You got to give Seinfeld its respect and everything, but it's Arrested Development for me.
No. Nothing is going to beat Seinfeld and Curb for me. Larry David is the most brilliant person in the history of the world.
Really good stuff from the chat here, nailing some of these sites.
But Arrested is like
New
3.
Girl.
Arrested is 3. Do you remember?
We got Veep from Emma. Love that.
Great call, Emma. Veep
is great.
Veep is probably the fastest jokes per minute, the most jokes per minute on a show in the history of television is Veep. Literally, it's the fastest bang joke. New Girl's amazing for dramedy. I was a big fan of that. Huge fan of Nick Miller and his version of comedy. I just think he's funny as hell, and Schmidt was hilarious in that show. Eastbound and Down, classic. Love that. Actually, I think his best Eastbound and Down is like the known best for what's his name? Not Kenny Powers. What's the act? Danny McBride. But, dude, his most recent show, the Righteous Gemstones, was the funniest and best. If you haven't seen Righteous Gemstones, that is a must-watch show.
Yeah. There you go, Adam Mazer. You get us going on TV shows. We can do this all day.
Yeah. We got to get off of this. It's supposed to be about I like
running backs.
No. Sometimes you got to break the fourth wall.
Okay.
Oh no, we blew Emma's cover.
I know. I didn't know she was hiding from the chat today. So
well, listen, we didn't want to blow Emma's cover because I won't even get into that. But yeah, we'll keep it rolling.
Let's talk about some running backs. I'm going to get into usage mostly. Before we do, I wanted to give another shout out to Coach Speak Index. This is a quote from Dave Canales, head coach of the Panthers. There's a bunch of good stuff that he says about Chuba Hubbard. But what's interesting to me, I think, in terms of usage is he says we've mostly been using Chuba primarily as our third down back, and then he gets series as we go, which to me, like, that's pretty great, right? Like, specifically, have the third downs, and then occasionally, if it's going well, get a whole series to yourself. It says just different ways to allow him to affect the game, especially because of how he's looked the past couple weeks. He's looked really strong, really powerful, just making sure that he's a weapon for us in different ways. Giving Rico Dowdle the lion's share of some of those first and second downs, those early series and all that is a great way to just get him the ball. I like where we're at. I like the balance. So I think we're still Rico starter is kind of where we're at. If Chuba comes out and starts this next game, then I think Rico people are in big trouble.
Yeah.
I think it's Rico starter, and if I had to guess, Chuba probably scoring more, or at least like having a higher expected fantasy point number playing those passing downs. But again, it's not like they're really passing that much, you know? So it's mostly just about the ground game. To me, this sounds sort of similar to Swift and Monangai, with it's kind of weird to make these comparisons stylistically, but like with Rico kind of playing the Swift role, and then the change of pace, who occasionally just like takes over a little bit, Chuba Hubbard being kind of in the Monangai role. So I've got on the screen XFP leaders per game. I've got snap rates, route rates, and target shares at the running back position. I've got it for the past month, but just real quick, while we're talking about the Panthers, I'm going to look at these past two games, which we've seen more Chuba Hubbard. It was 65-35 in terms of snaps in week 12 in favor of Rico. Week 13, it was 42% Rico Dowdle, snap rate 59% Chuba Hubbard. So pretty much dead even. 10.5 expected fantasy points per game for those two. That is low end. That's like right where you find Monangai across those 3 games. I think that tracks, and we've talked about them. I'm a little bit nervous for them for fantasy. Like it's been, when it's just Rico, it's been great, you know, top 10, top 12-ish range. But when that gets split into 2 backs and one of them could kind of like run with it, it makes them both really hard to trust. And I think that their expected fantasy point numbers kind of point to that.
Yeah. I mean, you broke it down earlier. It's kind of the Bears offense, but less effective in my mind. Is that what we like as we move forward through that? Let's take a look at I just want to see one more time what we got. We got Saints, who have been, like I mentioned on yesterday's show, one of the better defenses over the last 2 months that people don't kind of know about. Staley doing a great job there. Then we got Seahawks. That's miserable. And then we end where do we end with the Panthers? I know it's good at the end. I think the last game is good. Bucks, not good. Run funnel defense. So yeah, hard to feel confident about either of the two moving forward for me.
Yeah, I do have Rico higher because he has been the starter, but honestly, the more that I think about it, they're probably pretty close to each other. I've got Rico higher rest of season, but I think Hubbard could catch him easily, could even flip him this week, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. So good luck to y'all with that.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to give you the last month of data for the running back position, and then we're going to go team by team. Dan, can you see this?
Barely.
Let me zoom in a little bit. Is that better?
To an extent,
A little bit better.
My eyes need to get checked, but I can do some. I can see most of it.
We're sorted by expected fantasy points per game over the past 4 weeks. Javonte Williams still top 6, top 5. Trayvon Henderson is one of the names above him, and that's obviously going to drop off, I think. So yeah, at the top, it's Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr being this high is really, it's been way, way better with Dan Campbell. I think you've got clear league winner type of a player there. Bijan Robinson next. Chase Brown is up there as well. 2 of those games were played without Pirine. And then Javonte Williams. So really, Javonte, I know people have been all nervous about Javonte and everything, but if Chase Brown and Travion don't actually belong up here because their teammates came back, then Javonte's 4th in expected fantasy points per game over the past month, just ahead of James Cook. Ashton Jeanty, this is for full PPR, and we're getting, 18% target share is what Jeanty has. that really boosts this number. But again, he's not converting at a very efficient rate at all, because this offense is so bad and it's so predictable what's happening with these touches. RJ Harvey just behind Ashton Genty, 16.2 expected fantasy points per game over the past month, and the two most recent ones out of the bye have been even better than the one before that. Derrick Henry is next, then Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. These are guys who are typically able to outproduce expectations. Hasn't been the case so much for Saquon this year. Hasn't been the case so much for JT lately, and I'm definitely nervous about him going forward. Achane, Kareem Hunt. I do think that this role is going to get cut into more and more by Pacheco is kind of where we're at, is what it seems like, but you never really know with this backfield. Kenneth Gainwell, running back 15. So this is why I've been a little low on Warren, a little lower than I would like to be on Warren. Is this receiving role is going to Gainwell more and more. 57% route rate across the past month for Gainwell. That's the 8th highest at the running back position. So that's where I'm at. Like Devin Neal, I wanted to mention him too. He's up here. His XFP number isn't super high, but he has the 2nd highest route rate over the past month. We did talk about the Saints earlier. Like, they haven't really replaced the Alvin Kamara targets. Kellen Moore kind of hasn't looked at the running back position that way throughout his tenure as a coach. Maybe we see some more targets go to Neal, but I think this is basically where we're at. Tyron Tracy, it's been good at times. We'll see what happens out of the bye. My guess right now is you can't really go there. So we talked about the running back position yesterday too. Just did want to give a quick overview here and then go into the actual teams for week 14. Starting with the Cardinals.
I just want to make it clear, since people are confused about it in the chat. This is over a course of period. So people are saying Kareem Hunt over Woody Marks. Yeah, that's an expected fantasy points, but obviously that's not factoring in like what's happening now. Like Pacheco's taking on a bigger role, so the expectation is different moving forward.
Yeah, this is a 4-week sample size, so it's going to be relevant for most of the players, but some of them things have changed in the last week or two. Arizona Cardinals. Michael Carter played more. That's kind of what we've seen at times with this backfield, is when they get behind, Bam Knight loses some work, but still most of the actual running back work goes to Bam Knight. He has a decent expected fantasy point total. We don't want to use the Cardinals this week against the Texans, but I think going forward, if we don't get Trey Benson back, that Knight is a sneaky, interesting running back who maybe is available in some leagues for free. Atlanta, it's pretty much all Bijan Robinson, but Algiers still like getting some touches. I just don't know if we can trust him week to week. But Bijan is the one who's 55% route rate, 70% snap rate, and they're building the offense around him and Kyle Pitts right now. But Algiers is in there and does get some goal line work for sure. With the Ravens, it has been Ali. I mentioned that he's kind of filled this role. He has the highest route rate on the team last week. 3 targets for him as well. He's interesting. If Keaton Mitchell misses this game, then it would be just down to Henry and Ali, I think, in the backfield. He's a name to note for deep leagues. The Bills completely concentrated on James Cook. Ray Davis only a 7% snap rate. No touches for Ray Davis. 17 expected fantasy points for Cook. Only finishes with 12, but got a lot of goal line work. Even, pushing his route rate up a little bit, like we know that he can make plays as a receiver, even down the field. We've seen from him at times in this offense. I feel really, really good about James Cook as we head into this stretch run here, even though some of the matchups aren't great. Speaking of matchups not being great, still feel pretty good about the Bears. We saw, I think, 2 weeks ago, kind of like the ceiling outcome for this backfield with both people playing. This past week, it was, I think, more of like the floor. 57% snap rate for Swift, 41% for Monangai, 13 attempts for Swift, 14 for Monangai. Swift had about double the routes the Monangai had, but still only a 41% route rate for Swift because he is sharing the backfield. So better day for him, more expected fantasy points. He's who I've got ranked higher week to week, but I like both of these guys going forward. Do you have any thoughts on the Bears? Did you watch that Bears-Packers game?
Did not get a chance to watch that. I mean, I saw some broadcast red zone of it, but no, I haven't had a chance yet.
I watched the full game. That was pretty much the only thing going on in the afternoon window. I feel like the Bears could have won the game very easily. Like the first half, they did not execute very well, and then the last play, I think, could have gone differently. I continue to feel pretty bullish on the Bears. To me, like going and playing that well against Green Bay, like where it could have gone their way, is definitely noteworthy. And they were still able to mostly do what they want to do, which is run the game on the ground.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Which is definitely relevant because we're into this schedule that was scaring people so much. Like we're in it now and we're fine, head still above water. You get some down games or they might only give you 8 or 11 points or whatever, but still fine. Bengals, 19 points again for Chase Brown, 17 expected fantasy points. So the role has been good. He's getting some touches around the red zone. He's getting targets and everything. I've been a little nervous about P. Ryan, but mostly these have been kind of filler touches. He's played well. If you look at rushing efficiency numbers, he has like some of the best of any running back in the NFL. I think that a lot of that is because like when he's getting touches, it's passing situations, where the defense isn't playing the run. So
it's just also how teams will play the Bengals in general, right? Like they're going to always have two safeties playing at depth.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think he's like taking work from Brown necessarily. I don't think you need to worry about it, but I do think Brown's value is not quite as high as it was, when he was like clearly locked in as a running back 1 week to week.
That's fair.
The Browns, a lot of running back work this week, which I think makes sense with the state of the quarterback position for them, their offensive line and everything. They manufactured a lot of touches for these running backs. Dylan Sampson had 5 targets. So Judkins had 3. Jerome Ford had 3. Pretty good. Expected fantasy point day for Judkins. The rushing efficiency just hasn't been there lately. It's, defenses are loading the box. 45% snap rate for him, 39% for Sampson. Where are you at on Judkins? Like nothing has really changed kind of for you, right? Like just pretty apprehensive. If not that you ever would roster Quinshon Judkins, but if you did, like, is he somebody you could get into starting lineups? How do you feel about him? Here's where I have him rest of season. We talked about that last podcast. Like, would you rather just have Harvey straight up?
I'd definitely rather have Harvey straight up.
I thought so, yeah.
But I'd probably rather have Harvey moving forward than a lot of players. But that said, I'm not as anti-Judkins. Like, I was never that anti-Judkins. I just, as people were going hard on him, like, this is the breakout, I was like, just let's keep the team context in mind. And with that said, the team context has changed. When I had that take, it was with my boy, and by boy, I mean the quarterback I hope to never see play another snap in the NFL, Dylan Gabriel playing quarterback. The offensive ceiling has risen significantly with Shedeur Sanders. Even if it was just, here's the Titans matchup, at least that was possible and doable with him in the lineup to put up those kind of numbers and that kind of offense. So like with Shedeur in, I do have a little bit more faith in him. And with the running back landscape as it is, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with having him in the range you have him in. I don't think I'd put him any further up, just given that doesn't really get that involved in the passing game. Still not the greatest offense, and the schedule is not Titans every week.
For sure, yeah. I didn't mean to misrepresent you.
Oh, no, you didn't misrepresent.
In terms of being like anti-Judkins.
Thought I was hating on him.
Judkins is a great player, for sure.
And it was never as a player. It was just on the situation. The same thing was always with Ibuka when the chat says we were too low on Ibuka. Well, where are we at now? No, just kidding.
Cowboys, Javonte Williams, 82% snap rate, 17 of 20 running back runs, 59% route rate, 18 expected fantasy points per game. Like that's as good as it gets at running back, y'all. Like second, only Woody Marks had a higher snap rate. Only Jahmyr Gibbs had a higher route rate.
Wow.
He's locked in. And the Cowboys offense, wasn't as good as it has been at times, but this is a really, really good role. We saw finally, like, that was 2 weeks ago, the guy receiving touchdown. That was against the Chiefs. But we've seen that, like, he can score, there was just a stretch there where he wasn't the one scoring. It was pretty much all coming in the passing game. Broncos, 68% RJ Harvey. So that is much better than it has been. I think he had topped out at like 49% in the 2 games before that. 17 runs for him, only 4 for Bidet, 4 for Jaleel McLaughlin. 49% route rate for Harvey compared to just 9% for Bidet and 5 for McLaughlin. So that's great. They were intentional about getting the ball. 20 expected fantasy points per game, finishes with 22. totally get why Dan or anybody else would be psyched about RJ Harvey.
Yeah. Really excited about him rest of the season.
Lions, it continues to be more and more Gibbs. Only 6 attempts for Montgomery, 30% snap rate for Montgomery. Scores 14 points. His expected fantasy point total was 4. I've got a decent amount of Montgomery in dynasty leagues where I've just like nobody ever wants him, so I just collect these little buff boys that are, Montgomery's, Jalen Warren's, and the types. And it's like if something happens to a starter where they become the starter, like we've got with Warren now, they're pretty valuable. But in those leagues where I've got Montgomery as my RB2, I am not feeling so good about that. So I told you I flipped Rashee Rice for James Cook to solve that problem, because I think unless we get a Jahmyr Gibbs injury, Montgomery is not somebody you want to start.
Fair.
It's good offense. He could score a touchdown, but
yeah.
It's kind of like Charbonnet.
It's very Charbonnet-esque.
He's getting even less work,
Yeah, it's Charbonnet-esque. I like that. But on an offense, I trust more to score and be successful in the run game.
Packers, 71% snap rate for Josh Jacobs. So I think this is the healthiest we've seen him in a while. I thought he looked really, really good in this game against the Bears. 20 rush attempts for him, only 3 to Emmanuel Wilson, who had been playing more and getting more and more relief opportunities to kind of keep Jacobs fresh. But I think we're locked into Jacobs' bell cow season here down the stretch. 18 expected fantasy points for Jacobs. So feels good there. Who we got next? Houston Texans. Holy crap. We got a lot of Woody marks in this game. 89% snap rate, 26 touches, 46% route rate. Finally got more than one target in the game. And look at this. Scored some points. 16 fantasy points, 17 expected. You've mentioned that you don't think he's healthy. Is that, I know he got dinged up, but like, do you feel like his play has fallen off in terms of the health?
It just looks to me like he's been laboring through injuries in the snaps that I've watched of his, but I'd have to do a deeper dive. I don't want to put that out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, I watched every touch against the Chiefs. I thought mostly it was just that he was laboring through offensive line plus Chiefs defense. Chiefs defense is mean.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to touch the ball 28 times against them.
Fair.
Colts, 71%. Jonathan Taylor, Amir Abdullah getting in a little bit as well, but it's not like he's really getting the ball. It's just passing downs. 14 expected fantasy points for Taylor. I think we're rapidly approaching like RB2 range for Jonathan Taylor, which is really tough if you've been dependent on him.
Wow. RB2 range. Wow.
Yeah, man. Let's find the Colts here. We've got implied totals for week 15. Colts. Anybody? Here they are. 15 points below the Titans, below the Browns. Only the Jets are tied with them. Only the Raiders are lower.
The good news is if you have Jonathan Taylor too, you probably earn yourself a bye week. So you don't have to go through the Seattle matchup at least.
Jaguars. Similar type of role here.
This is great.
Jonathan Taylor is what we find for Travis Etienne. Bishop Tuten barely played. Two touches, fumbled on the second one. Apparently got banged up. Was returning kicks and stuff after that. 71% snap rate for Etienne. 20 touches. LaQuint Allen is their passing downs back, but he did not get a carry. Only a 33% route rate for Etienne and 1 target. At times they will get him some screens and stuff, but they just haven't really used the running back position much as route runners out of the backfield. 12 expected fantasy points, finishes with 21, scores a couple touchdowns. Wasn't a super efficient rushing day for him, and we've kind of seen it fall off as the season's gone on. But this usage is good. This makes him like kind of a low-end RB2. Or RB1, sorry. Chiefs ended up being a ton of Kareem Hunt, but early on it was Pacheco. Pacheco had like a 64% snap rate in the first quarter. Overall, though, 36% snap rate for Pacheco. I think with the game on the line, they go to Hunt. I think they would like to not have to give him so much work. In theory, like if they could make the playoffs, they would probably want him to be fresher. And then that involves more Pacheco down the stretch run here. But you probably just want to avoid this backfield. I mean, combined, it was like 14 expected fantasy points for the Chiefs for the whole backfield and 13 actual fantasy points. So not much to see here for the once highly sought after fantasy offense, Kansas City Chiefs. Raiders, 69% snapper for Ashton Genty, 50% route rate. It's awful. I don't know. Like he was high in expected fantasy points over the past month, but even that is kind of dwindling here.
Ugh.
Some games he gets like 8 targets. But like we saw more Raheem Mostert in this game. There have been other games where it's been like 90% Genty. I just wonder how long they're going to do that. And even when they do, is it really that valuable for fantasy? Not really. There was one game where he had a ton of points, but other than that was like 2 months ago or something, I think.
He's had random touchdowns too that help, and he gets a lot of receptions. But
yeah, he's out there playing football. He could score a touchdown.
This is just like the clearest example ever that we'll get in fantasy of like the situation could just destroy players.
Yeah. Chargers, 69% snap rate for Kamana Vidal. That's nice unless you're an Amari and Hampton manager. I think we'll see him cut into that more, but until you do see it, it's really hard to trust him, even though he's looked good and he scored a touchdown this week. You're talking about an offense that's like middle of the pack. I think they're implied for 19.5 points this week against the Chiefs. And if he's the backup running back, if he's simply the running back they don't want out there on passing downs, 17% route rate for him compared to 56% for Vidal. That is kind of scary, right? As what are they, 4.5 point underdogs against the Chiefs on the road? Overall, 12 expected fantasy points is not bad. They did some things to get the ball in his hands. Finishes with 15. So how lucky do you feel that the framework on paper does not look good? Vidal looks slightly better. 14 rush attempts for him, 3 targets. But I would prefer to not roll the dice with either one of them. The Rams, man, Blake Corum.
He's so good.
He is something else, especially lately. He's just been on fire. It's cool. I mean, he's somebody that we've talked about a lot as like he's looked good all year. I thought it would probably require a Kyren injury, but he's just played himself into relevancy apparently. Even still though, like they're not shifting the role much. And why would they, They're the Rams. They don't need to. Let me look at this because I think we're influenced by blowout here where we got some Ronnie Rivers. Yeah, okay. So Ronnie Rivers got 8 touches all in the second half. In the first half, we got a 75% snap rate for Kyren Williams and 25% for Blake Corum. That is not really what we have been seeing. That I think it had been a more even split before that. Week 13, it was pretty much the same thing. Am I tripping here? I swear it was like 60-40. Okay, week 12, it was more 60-40, 65-35. Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of coincides with what McVay has said about trying to keep Kyren fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought it was even more of a split is what I'm saying. Like 75% Kyren in the first half was surprisingly high to me.
Fair.
But that's what Kyren people like to see because Blake Corum is the one who scored 26 points in this game. But yeah, Kyren still had a good game. This is a great offense, and if he gets 75%, that's huge. I've been penciling him in for like 60% of the snaps. Even in the first half, though, like I just gave you those splits for anybody who's watching here, they saw them. But for listeners too, 75% first half snap rate for Kyren, 25% for Blake Corum, but 6 rush attempts for Kyren, 8 rush attempts for Kyren, 6 for Corum. I do think they're both getting the rock. That might have just been like Kyren's drives happened to be longer in the first half or something. Okay. The Dolphins have been running the ball extremely well. We got a ton of Jalen Wright after HN went down. HN still had a good day, even with limited playing time. In the second half, it was 68% Jalen Wright, 14 of 19 running back rushes, 50% route rate, and a couple targets. 10 expected fantasy points in one half is a lot. But yeah, the Dolphins do not want to expect anything from Tua, is what it seems to me. So it's mostly the running backs getting the expected fantasy points. Minnesota Vikings, 44% snap rate for Aaron Jones, 30% for Jordan Mason. Dan watched this game and I think we both agree that it feels better when it's running through Mason, and maybe this is an indication that they're kind of aligning with that.
Yep.
Xavier Scott gets in there a little bit as well, so it's a bit too split. I mean, this is a rare backfield where you don't have anybody above a 50% snap rate. Most of the routes are Jones runs more routes than the other running backs, but still only a 31% rate and no targets in this game. So it comes out to, even in a game where you were winning throughout and didn't they score like 31 points or something? I know that wasn't all on offense, but
right.
Nine expected fantasy points for Jones, 6 for Mason, 3 for Scott. Like, not great, Bob.
No.
Let's go Patriots week 13. As a reminder, 60% Ramondre Stevenson, and this was a blowout against the Giants. 72% Stevenson in the first half compared to 41% for Travion Henderson. 6 rushes for Stevenson, 67% route rate for Stevenson. Both guys got some work, but it did feel, as you're watching this game, that Stevenson was the one that they kind of preferred to have on the field, and then Henderson got kind of mop-up duties. Yeah, I mean, Stevenson ran more routes even with the game script. Who do you feel safer starting in week 14, Dad?
Good question.
Because Travion has outscored his expected fantasy points at a really high clip, whereas Ramondre is kind of on the other end of it in terms of efficiency.
Right. Man, that's tough. I actually feel okay playing either in this spot against the Bills because I think there's upside.
Yeah.
Probably Ramondre. I think he's going to get the red zone.
Yeah. All right, New Orleans Saints. 71% Devin Neal. I mean, that's one of the highest rates we've seen at the running back position here. 58%
Seriously.
route rate, 15 expected fantasy points, scores 15. Feels pretty good right now. Their schedule is fairly easy at neutral, at least. I mean, Audric Esme and Evan Hull are just 2 wash-ups who have landed here. If Neal keeps playing well and Kamara doesn't come back, he's pretty much locked in as like a mid-range RB2, which is great to get off the waiver wire. I don't know if there's ever going to be much upside because he's not getting a lot of targets, but we've seen him. I think he had 7 targets 3 weeks ago, so like maybe he can. But it's other than that, it's like not a lot of explosive play potential, not a lot of targets, and not a high scoring offense. Giants, they're split. It's been a week since we've seen them, and their splits are going to be thrown off because Tyron Tracy got banged up and left that game. Do you have anything you want to impart on the Giants, or we just wait and see what happens?
We wait and see. I mean, look, it feels like lately Kafka has leaned more on Tracy to start games and to get more opportunities, but in the red zone, I still think it's going to be Singletary.
Yeah, and there were times before the injury, outside of the red zone, that they were like going to Singletary a lot.
You know, Singletary will get full series as well.
Yeah,
it's not like if I need me. Yeah.
Well, it's like a couple weeks ago, Tracy had like a 70% snap rate or something, and there was like a 3-game stretch where he was averaging like 100 scrimmage yards per game, and I just wondered why we would go to Singletary much beyond that. But I think he's a solid running back, and like he gives them something, and they keep going to him, even with Tracy at times playing really well. So
all we do on our podcast, our Big Blue Banters, talk about how much better Singletary is on tape than fans realize, and that most people figure. Yeah, because he processes insanely well. He has jump cuts. He manipulates space really well. He gets yards that are not there for a lot of backs, and he runs low. Like Tracy runs high.
Yeah. New York Jets. Imagine running a Jets podcast. 4 fantasy points for Breece Hall, 2 for Isaiah Davis. Overall, they had 12 expected fantasy points from those 2. Breece Hall's out there. Nothing changed with his role, but man, it is awful for the Jets. Good luck with Breece Hall. We moved him way down on yesterday's rest of season ranking show. It's kind of like the Jonathan Taylor thing. Yeah, it sucks. Saquon Barkley, 80% snap rate. That feels like the highest it's been in a while. They had been previously getting Tank Bigsby some looks, but 20 of 21 rush attempts go to Barkley in this game. Thought he looked good. 58% route rate, only a couple targets, but that's a good route rate. We've seen him get more targets at times. Locked in. I think he's clear running back 1 type of player right now.
Yeah.
Steelers, it was an even split in terms of snaps, with way more routes going to Kenneth Gainwell, more targets going to Gainwell. 14 expected fantasy points for him, 16 actual points, 10 expected fantasy points for Warren, 15 actual points. I continue to rank Warren higher because that's what love does to you. It makes you illogical. The data tells us that Kenneth Gainwell is the better player for fantasy. 49ers, you know what we've got there. Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, 6th straight game or something. I've lost track at this point of how many games in a row he's outsnapped Zach Charbonnet, and it has not mattered at all. 51% snap rate for him, 43% for Charbonnet. 10 attempts for Walker, 7 for Charbonnet. I think Charbonnet got more red zone work, if I remember right, but at times it hasn't been that way. Similar amount of routes and targets for the two of them. Only 19 combined fantasy points in the backfield. That's just not very many. With slightly more of those going to Charbonnet. Charbonnet outscores them. You can start either of them if you're in a pinch, but it has not been very fun.
Even like the amazing game scripts they've had. A lot of these games last week, 35-7, whatever that game was. They've had like multiple of these blowouts. They're not eating in these amazing game scripts. It's really frustrating.
They've also gone more pass heavy lately. Their pass rate over expectation is higher these past 2 games, and they've been like the lowest pass rate over expectation other than the Jets all year long.
I think they can't run the ball that well.
I've got my eye on that. I think it's like they got Rashid Shaheed, and maybe they're leaning into that a little bit more or something. They've been trying to get him going. I don't really know. Maybe it's just matchups, but more passing lately. Bucks, 49% snap rate each for White and Irving. It was pretty much all Bucky in the first quarter, and then it ended up getting split a lot among the 3 of them. Sean Tucker also got 7 rushes. So what I can say is that the Bucky rush attempts this year have been horrifically inefficient. Bucky Irving getting the ball as a running back on the ground, not as a receiver, is one of the least efficient plays that can happen for any running back as a rusher this year. I don't know what the hell to make of that, because Bucky Irving was really, really efficient last year. But that maybe matters. There's maybe something happening here where they want to split it up more. You're never gonna get me to blame Bucky. It's not gonna happen. And I've watched all the touches, and there's a few plays where maybe he's pressing or something, not quite as comfortable because it's only his second game back. But I think he looks basically like the same guy that we saw dominate last year. So in this game, even with a dip in snaps, he has 11 expected fantasy points and scores 16 fantasy points. We see some of the explosive plays. We know that he can give you multiple explosive plays in a given week. Rashad White has 7 actual fantasy points, 7 expected fantasy points. Sean Tucker finds the end zone. I wouldn't want to start anybody other than Bucky from this group, but this is something to keep an eye on going forward. Titans. Did anyone notice that Tony Pollard went freaking bananas this week?
He did, and had like 25 carries.
28 fantasy points for Tony Pollard. What? We've had nothing from Tony all year. And then just randomly, every time they flip over to the Titans on red zone, there goes Tony streaking down the sideline. Good for him. I love this guy. He's battled through some awful teams the past couple of years here, and just getting the crap kicked out of him over and over and over for a Titans team that can't move the ball otherwise. So yeah, congrats to him on making it through the season. Are you comfortable starting Tony Pollard this week, Dan?
No.
Let's see. I haven't adjusted my week 15 running back ranking. So what you're looking at is just consensus. Let's see where
it was totally nonsensical for him to go off against the Browns defense.
They've got Tony Pollard at running back 31 this week. ahead of Chuba Hubbard. I don't know about that one, but in the same range as Tracy or Aaron Jones. So the Niners defense has been gettable. You probably don't want to go there. You definitely don't want to go to Tajay Spears. He gets some targets. He has 10 expected fantasy points in this game because of the targets. Scores 7. You're pretty much locked into 7. If you're fine with that, go trade for Ashton Genty. I don't know.
That's something how's that sound to you? You're locked in.
I'll give you 7. You'll probably never get more than that.
No.
Speaking of such things, here we are with Chris Rodriguez, 6 expected fantasy points, scores 5. But that's it. I don't think there's any but. I don't know. Dan and I have talked about Chris Rodriguez a lot, but he gets no targets. He has a 13% route rate. It's all coming on the ground. 2 weeks ago, we saw Mariota and the boys do it against the Broncos. I don't know. Have you watched any of the Hard Knocks? There's only one episode out right now, but it's NFC East. So I thought maybe you would be interested in that.
The second episode came out. Yeah. Last night, the second came out.
Nice.
I haven't been a huge fan of it.
Oh, get Jackson Dart content though, man.
Not much. You don't get much.
Jackson Dart, Theo Johnson content, talking about not knowing anything geographically. Yeah, it's a little underwhelming so far. Maybe it'll be fun. It's a fun division, I think. Although I don't really like watching the Eagles and Cowboys stuff right now. It's kind of traumatizing as a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mariota continues to be part of our mainstream football consciousness. For whatever reason, we've got Mariota quarterback, and now he's here.
No, it's Mariota.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's Mariota.
Yeah.
Mariota is definitely somebody I'm considering in a super flex league this week, which is how desperate I have got.
How'd you did you get Phil Rivers? How are you feeling about your team where you lost Daniel Jones?
So a couple things to complain about here to end the show. First of all, this part I don't hate as much. That league does waivers tonight, like it runs tonight into Thursday. So the big bids come tonight. I hope no one's listening. I don't
2 hours in.
Yeah, I know him from my league. Is listening. I hope all you are actually listening, hitting the like button, leaving comments, subscribing, and rating on iTunes and Spotify. If you don't do any of that, I will find you and I will. Bad things may happen to you. No, seriously, no, nothing bad's gonna happen to you. But I may sick Emma on you. And as those who can attest, who are in the chat today, Emma has a lot of one-liners. Okay, she is clever and smart, and I don't know. She's from the Midwest, so she might have something to say and do to you. If you do not like this podcast right now, and subscribe and rate on iTunes. With that said, the problem I have is this, Jacob. This is a big qualm I have. This league, I'm going to bring this up for a rule change next year, resets the waiver budget for the playoffs. That is so unfair. I purposely, and I keep forgetting, it's the second year in a row I forgot this like an idiot. This is on me. I play in 23 leagues. What do you want me to do? It is what it is. It's my job. But they reset it, and I had the most weight. I purposely had the most weight budget left for this situation. So now, all these playoff teams have an even budget. They know what I need. They know what I want. They're joking about it in the group chat. I'm in trouble here because what do? Okay, so listen. There's Rivers. There's Pickett, who's going to start this week. I don't know how much longer Pickett is going to start. And then there's Riley Leonard, who's practicing and may start this week for the Colts. That's it at quarterback. And as I remind the people here, this is not only a super flex league, but it's a league that awards a half point per completion. So you basically have to have a quarterback in that spot.
Yeah.
What would you suggest I do with my 1,000? And the other problem is it's a league that doesn't let you make $0 bids. So last year I was in a similar situation, bid all my budget in the semis, got to the finals, and then had to start an inactive player because Lamb was hurt because I had $0 left.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I think I remember this story. Yeah.
So I don't know what to do in this league. Do you have any advice to end the show?
So waivers don't go till tomorrow, I'm guessing.
Yeah, tonight I have to put my bids in.
Right. Okay. Yeah, man, that's tough. I don't have any. Of the three, I've been prioritizing it for Dynasty, Leonard, then Rivers, then Pickett.
Okay.
I think for redraft, it would be Rivers over Leonard.
Okay.
Did you say that you have a bye? Was that part of the?
I have a bye. I'm first seed.
I feel like it's more likely that Rivers is in next week.
Same.
But that's just a guess.
I also feel like, yeah, no, I don't think they can, like, the Rivers thing is weird. Like, you wouldn't sign him if the plan was like, all right, well, if Riley Leonard's good to go, we'll play Riley Leonard, right? Like, the plan, Rivers is not going to sit on the bench behind Riley Leonard, I don't think. So with that said, I feel like I have to go all in on Rivers, because if I knew for a fact that Geno was out for the rest of the season, I actually would probably go all in on Pickett. I trust him more than Rivers, I think. And he's got the Giants one of his matchups, but I feel like this Geno thing, Geno could be back the week after. And it's not like Pickett is some kind of like young quarterback the Raiders want to see. Like, I'm surprised they don't just put in AOC, who I think is probably the best of those three. So yeah, it's a bad.
So why do you feel like you have to go all in? Do you think that just because of the Fab reset that these will all be aggressively bid on?
I think Rivers will be aggressively bid on. The other two probably won't.
Do you have space to add multiple?
That's also an issue for me. This league, the situation is, let me get to my lineup here and tell you about this. This league requires you to roster 2 kickers, 2 defenses, and 2 tight ends at all times. So my options are...
What did you just say?
You heard that right. 2 kickers, 2 defenses, and 2 tight ends at all times.
By the way, for any of you who are still here listening, give us recommendations on what you would like to see from the Beyond the Box Score listener league.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking it's like a 50-team dynasty league, something like that.
I don't know about all that.
As sick as possible.
I don't know about all that. What I do know is
definitely no kickers, no kicker requirements.
No kickers, no defenses. I start by saying that. I will not play in a kicker defense league. We also, no matter if I'm going to do this, Jacob, we have to, unfortunately for you and the listeners, or they'll probably love it, the sickos, but it's got to be auction. I will refuse to be in a snake league. It's not good. It's not
It's going to take a long time with 50 different managers.
It's worth it. It has to be auction. We can't start up with a snake. It's just, well, it doesn't have to do dynasty, by the way. It could be redraft. But we've reached the point of the show where we're rambling, or I'm rambling. Jacob never rambles. I'm a rambling type. Lord, I was born a rambling man. I'm just trying to make a living doing the best I can. And with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to Beyond the Box Score. Have a great rest of your week. Join us again tomorrow for Mastering the Matchups. We'll get really nitty gritty. And by we, I mean Jacob and Ryan. And have a great weekend. Good luck. Please go ahead and win your matchups. That's all we got.